I'm blasting off. We're live. We're alive. You already know what it is. You already know what's going on. It's also like, you know how sometimes people talk about America B? Like they'll be like, oh, this is what's happening in America B. And it's like, you know, a guy at Chick-fil-A talking about how one must celebrate God. Like Chick-fil-A workers are just like coming up in the middle of people consuming Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, and the Chick-fil-A workers like, oh, have you celebrated God today? Like that's what's going on in America B. There's also, I feel like, a America C. Okay. There's the America that we live in. There's the America B where all the, you know, the chuds, the hogs, the real Americans live. And then there's an America C where, like, you know, Coachella is happening. Okay. Like, I feel like that is a totally separate universe. Oh, I misspelled taking place as talking place. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? Yeah, America C is Coachella. Right? That's what it is. And it's not just Coachella. It's just like a litany of different activities. It's like not just Coachella, but it's also like the Kanye West sold out arena shows, right? It's just like a totally separate universe where people have no care about what's going on. Sabrina Carpenter is getting shit on in America C. Why? What'd she do? Not my Sabrina. I'll protect her. Unless she did something heinous. So I don't know. She was mocking Arab culture? Oh no. Oh no. Uh-oh. People saying she was racist. I mean, she did have that very weird take about BBC talking about, you know, not the British broadcaster, you know. She did like that double entendre about the other BBC. That was a little touch and go. But I think she's like, the way I see it, I feel like the way I see it, if you're hot enough, most people will defend you, you know? I think that's kind of how it goes, you know? Like that's just what it is, right? Where she might have been hot enough. What is this? This isn't even like a she's hot thing. It genuinely isn't an issue. Sydney Sweeney actually tested that, honestly, in the marketplace. Sydney Sweeney, see, look. I defended her for being horny, and I'm not ashamed. In parentheses, I'm black. That's what I'm talking about. Like that's what I mean. Anyway, let's we'll dive right into the Sabrina Carpenter saga. It seems Sydney Sweeney proved that there's a limit. Yes, absolutely. But for normies, it doesn't even matter. BDBD wants to do a new segment for you. Oh, BDBD, where I read the Chinese netizen segment. He's reading the comments several times, so let's start a segment called Words from the Heart to Hassan. Hassan truly looks to unite Chinese and American audiences, young and old. He surfs so fast. I just saw a video praising him this morning. He's really handsome and is a great figure. Oh my, I was seeing. Gotta admit, really handsome. Our simplified Chinese internet is easily peaked at. Lol, why is everyone coming to BDBD now? I praised him several times. Why did he only notice the one time I didn't? So annoying. Oh my God. Chinese netizens sound exactly like you guys in this chat at this point. That is literally, that last comment is unironic. That's got to be an American. This is whatever bitches is the name of the account. I feel like this is a Hasanabi head straight up posting on Bilibili to get my attention all the way from the other side of the firewall. You know what I mean? CPC leadership convenes criticism and self-criticism meeting. She delivers important speech. Oh yeah, we got the Taiwan peace talks over the strait that I will be getting into a little bit too, because it's like breaking the minds of a lot of American NatSec people they're very mad. Like they didn't even talk about reunification or anything. They were just like, hey, we should move towards solidarity across the strait, all this stuff, right? Like they're very diplomatic in the communications, right? And Americans are like, no, we have to give Taiwan a nuclear weapon right now. We have to literally, actually, fuck it. We should just cut out the middleman. We should just nuke both Taiwan and mainland China because we don't like that they're having a conversation. Like, calm down, you know, let discourse run its course, you know? Like, it's unbelievable that you got a Taiwanese lady in the KMT party saying, I'm on my own volition going to go to the mainland and have a conversation with Xi. Okay. And people hear that and go, absolutely not. The majority of the Taiwanese do not want reunification. I know. But guess what? They also don't want independence either. They want status quo. And guess what? The KMT lady didn't actually advocate for unification anyway. She went to have a conversation about normalizing relations with mainland China, which is an advancement of status quo with better relations with China. What the fuck is the problem? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that like Americans do not want to admit that like this is not about Taiwanese sovereignty or like advancing the wishes of the Taiwanese population or anything like that. It's so strange. This is why I initially said, like America and maybe a lot of Americans as well have this like NatSec mindset where they go, both of these parties can consent to something, but if we don't consent, then we're going to do everything in our power to, you know, frustrate this process. It's very strange. In any case, we'll get to that as well. We'll talk about that. I'm sure that'll ruffle a lot of feathers. Do you think he keeps saying praise be to Allah because he thinks it'll get him favor with Iran? He said it again. I think he just reverted. I think Buddy saw what the Shahid drones were doing, and he thought to himself, maybe I'm Shia in my heart, in my soul. You know, maybe he said the Shahada. I think at this point he must have. He's praising Allah more than he says, like, you know, God bless America at this point. What are you supposed to do? Just say the Shahada, Trump, if you haven't already. Revert. May Allah guide you. There's probably some people out there who think he converted. Yeah, I could see that. Trump found Obama's Quran. Yeah, Obama left the Quran behind with the hopes that he could maybe convert others to Islam as well. He's on his deathbed. He's covering his bases. I could see that. Norm Finkelstein popped the fuck off. What is this? Marco Rubio. Where is Norm? Who are these podcasts that Norm is going on? Anyway, Trump found it in the desk drawer of the hotel Bible. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. All right, let's start with Norm.
Marco Rubio.
Also, wait, hold on. Before we do that, yeah, here it is. This is the blast off meme for those of you who are not paying attention. My wife and I are Gen X and absolutely love your streams. Hell yeah. Israeli media is obsessed with CNN. Oh, yeah. The Goon Platoon. I knew I wanted to get pregnant with the sperm of my brother-in-law, Omri, the late, and everyone, it seemed. Yeah, this is real. I mean, it's every day I tune into Israeli media to see what they're on about. Hit that translate from Hebrew button and find out new fascinating things that I never thought were being discussed in broad daylight. This is one of those things. This, for the record, is an ongoing saga in Israel. For those of you who don't know, obviously this is the Goon Platoon, hardest working unit in the Israeli occupying forces. You croak, we stroke. You know, the guys that go in and extract semen from fallen Israeli occupying force rear brigadier admiral generals who are like, 21 years old. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Stroke Team 6. Yep. Retrieving cum. Yeah, I saw this. This is what the article is about. Judge rules slain hostage's family may use his sperm with a surrogate. Yotam Haim, the hostage killed by the IDF in Gaza under the mistaken belief that he was Palestinian, apparently had his sperm taken from his corpse after the death, despite not being a soldier. His mom, who says she was never angry at the IDF, is now looking for a woman to have his child. A Beersheba Sheba family court judge on Friday ruled that the sperm of Yotam Haim, an Israeli hostage who was mistakenly killed by troops after escaping Hamas captivity in Gaza, may be used to conceive a child, saying it was his express wish before his death. In a statement hailing the end of a year and a quarter of honorable and respectful legal and governmental proceedings, the Haim family said the state of Israel took an important step forward, calling the decision a significant point of light for bereaved families and a source of pride for us. They went on to thank the state attorney's office, as well as their own legal team and the nation of Israel for their endless support. Yotam's mother, Iris, has previously said she's seeking a surrogate mother for his child who will not only provide the egg and carry the child, but also raise them. Judge Ariel Maman noted that Iris requested his written decision be published, both due to its public importance and aid in the search for a potential mother. In an introduction to his decision, Maman quoted a variety of traditional Jewish sources, primarily around an interaction recorded in Genesis, in which the matriarch, Rachel, then childless, tells her husband, Jacob, "Give me children or else she'll die," to which Jacob responds, "Can I take the place of God?" The judge cited rabbinic criticism of the patriarch for his answer, citing a tradition that God reprimanded Jacob, demanding, "Is that the way one answers the distressed?" According to the decision, the Haim family recounted a series of explicit statements made by Yotam, expressing not only his desire to have children, but his desire that even if he were to die, his sperm be used to ensure his continuity. Iris recalled an occasion when one of Yotam's brothers said he didn't want to have children, at which point Yotam interjected, "Don't worry, I'll bring you grandchildren." His therapist testified to his desire for a stable relationship, stemming in part from a desire to be a father. Since then, according to health ministry figures from November 2025, postmortem sperm retrieval has been performed on at least 250 soldiers and security force personnel, including 193 at the request of a parent. Sperm was also retrieved from 21 civilians, again with 10 of those requests coming from parents. So what, 11 of those not coming from the parents? They just decided to do it anyway? Okay. Before October 7, posthumous sperm retrieval was permitted for the parents only with court approval. After the start of the war, the Health Ministry and the Justice Ministry approved of a temporary regulation allowing parents to authorize sperm retrieval without the need for court approval, but there is no national policy about what is done with the sperm. Yeah, that's the real thing. That's real shit. That's real shit. It's one of those things where it's like, this only becomes a problem in a country that has, demographic concerns and it operates on a ethno-religious supremacist ideological basis, obviously. And this is, a byproduct of that mentality. It might come across as like very curious to you, very strange to you, but an American equivalent to this is basically like, people talking about the Great Replacement and how, whites need to maintain a demographic majority in the country, and the government trying to figure out ways to ensure that white people repopulate, and they stave off the growth of the non-white population. So if you're frustrated by the likes of Elon Musk, for example, talking about insane things, treating women like they're broodmares, talking about how, women are baby incubators, denying them their bodily autonomy. Well, this is a similar mindset, if not an identical mindset, right? This is the same exact mindset. It's fascist. It's a eugenicist, fascist, ethno-supremacist, religious supremacist mentality. This is just the Israeli version of that very same force that I routinely oppose here. Logs, please, genuine question. Here you go. Take a week off. Hasanabi. You know why I did that, for the record? Because Hasanabi in the chat loves doing this. where they'll ask a question and they always go, hey, check logs, please. Genuine question. This was their fourth strike. I waited for their fourth strike. Okay. I waited for their fourth strike to clap him for a week. Okay. Classic check logs chatter. Can't stand it. Don't test me on this, by the way. I can show you. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to show you the logs. Okay. 17-month subscriber. Look. Logs, please. Inside baseball. Logs, please. Genuine question. Logs, please. Logs, please. Inside baseball. Logs, please. Logs, please. Fourth strike. For the record, logs, please. Genuine question. Logs, please. Genuine question. Logs, please. I have an answer for why they're doing this. Had to hit him with that. Had to hit him with that suspension. You understand? Hey, Oz, genuine question. A lot of friends who are from Hong Kong don't want to become Chinese citizens. I have a question. Sorry to bother you. Logs, please. No, motherfucker. You are not sorry to bother me at all. As a matter of fact, you never feel sorry to bother me. You love hitting the logs, please. Hitting the logs, please, harder than a beaver building a dam. God damn. Is logs, please, a common thing with other streamers? I don't know much about the industry. Probably not, because most streamers don't have a active conversation with 30,000 people in real time for this reason, because they would go crazy. For me, luckily for all of you, I am crazy. No, but seriously, logs, please. Okay, you want it? Here you go. Anyway, so yeah, we talked about the goon platoon.
He goes to the toilet.
Let's see what
Mark
my goat Norm had to say.
Marco Rubio, when he goes to the toilet, he carries his GPS to find his anal cavity. What is Netanyahu? Yes, in his youth, he was probably smart. I'm not going to take that away from him. But now he's just a talented used car salesman. The salesman. He's such a pitiful, I don't pity him, but he's such a pitiful, pathetic sight. The used car salesman holding up his diagrams from a Looney Tunes cartoon gave the deed of Gaza to Donald J. Trump, a retarded ape. Jared Kushner. He looks like he's been on puberty blockers for the last 30 years. I mean, somebody ought to tell Jared it's time to get rid of the blockers and grow some facial hair. His face looks like a porcelain vase. Trump is just an ape. And then Hegseth, you don't know if he's what he calls himself, the Secretary of War, the Secretary of Peace, Secretary of Defense, the original name of the title, or Secretary of Hair Gel. I'm inclined to the third. But even a retarded ape, like the person currently occupying the Oval Office of the White House, even he recoiled. And Witkoff, okay, if I'm playing golf and I have to decide whether to use a wood or an iron, Witkoff's advice would be quite useful. But otherwise, no. And he knew it. I mean, Trump is smart enough to know that he appointed idiots. Like the Europeans, they've reached the point of fed up with this guy. They're tired of defending a retarded ape.
Jesus Christ. Okay, he's on. We've broken this man. I feel like his interactions with the internet are damaging him. Okay, he hit him with the triple tap. He didn't even hit him with the double tap. He hit that 3 times. He went back to back to back. Like, I knew things were headed in a dark direction when he started talking about how gooning is a precursor to fascism. You know, when he learned about that stuff, I was like, oh no, Norm, just stay on the landline. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. And since then, it's just been downhill. Okay, but obviously he's King Dark Woke. He's King Dark Woke. It's fine. You know, his heart is in the right place. He's just old school. This is nowhere near as bad as some of his other moments. So whatever. This is why universities shouldn't have banned Norm ever. Maybe they'll unban him now that he's like, saying, now that he's slinging the R word, maybe they'll go, oh, you're sufficiently conservative for us now. We have decided on the aesthetic front, you speak like a right winger. You are now allowed. You are now allowed on college campuses again. Yeah. The university life was keeping him hinged. Yeah, definitely. They banned him because he made too many college chuds cry. Okay, let's do Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter is being criticized after mocking a fan who performed a zagruda, a mouth sound used to symbolize joy in Arab and African cultures, during a show at Coachella. The fan explained it was something from her culture, but even so, she was called weird by the artist. Let's see.
Is that what you're doing? I don't like it. That's your culture, is yodeling?
She hit that so well, too. Yeah, I mean, she's white. She's white. She doesn't know any better. Sabrina, no. She's white. She doesn't know any better. It's you know.
Is this Burning Man? What's going on? This is weird. You know, the last...
To be honest, it sounds like someone making fun of Native Americans. Wait, what? No, it's not. She has to do a dabka on stage to make up for it? Yes. Damn, I thought she was leading the vanguard. She knows what that is. She's just racist. Oh, man, we're so back. We're so back, baby. We're so fucking back. That is the most like 2016 ass. No, she doesn't fucking understand anything, okay? You have no idea what she can and can't hear up there on that stage anyway. It's a, why are you defending that? I'm not. It's just like a nothing burger, okay? That's it. Yeah, she was not being sensitive to mena culture, which is true. She wasn't. She was being insensitive. I agree, but I don't think it was like a deliberate. No, this has to turn into discourse. Yeah. No, that's what we got. 2016 woke is back. Yeah, bro, she's a white lady. She'll learn. It's just a pop star. You don't even listen to music. I'm sure there are more important issues in the world than this shit. No, this is some peak. This is some peak woke 1.0 discourse, and I love it. I love it. Let's pontificate endlessly like the world is not on the verge of ending tomorrow or the day after. I love that shit. I feel like there are blue sky liberals, for example, that will have discourse like this. They will have discourse like this as like nukes are flying around. They'll be like, I know nuclear arms are flying around right now, but I just haven't given up on the fact that Graham Plattner had that one tattoo. You know, it's just can't believe that like the Maine senator is a prominent white nationalist neo-Nazi. You could have the Trump administration straight up sending people. I mean, they're already sending people to the concentration camps. Like that already is happening, which is kind of the whole point of what I'm saying about like the unproductive discourse or whatever. But it's a situation like that where, you know, they're knocking. The Gestapo is at your doorstep and you're like, I got to fire off one more tweet about how problematic certain people are. You know, this is some pre-October 7th, pre-Russian invasion of Ukraine woke 1.0 discourse. Yeah. Chad, if you want to hear about Sabrina, go listen to Caroline later with Kwan Dynasty. Yeah. This is outside of my forte. Sabrina needs to join Hezbollah. She needs to pledge her allegiance to the axis of resistance in order to make up for this severe gripe, this severe slight against the entire MENA population, this microaggression. Because it is what it is. That is what it is, right? Like to be like, oh, what the fuck is that? Like, your goat is even more washed. LeBron James doubles down on Israel defense.
Rebound
no.
taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the
That's crazy. Why are you disparaging his dad? Let's not talk about Hebron James. Okay, let's not talk about Likud James. Okay, it's fine. He said what he said. He said what he said. I have blocked it out of my mind. Okay, I blocked it out of my mind. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know. You got baddies turning into you? What is this?
Now let's hear it for the back of the dress.
Every single dollar that is spent on a bomb is stolen from each and every one of you.
Yeah, that's week 10 on HRT. That's how it works, man. It's crazy. Testosterone is a hell of a hormone, you know? You get the thickest beard. Wemby is the GOAT? Yes, Wemby is my GOAT. It's true. Hey, man, I just got here. Can you start the stream over? Sure, buddy. I got you. What's up, everybody? I'm laughing a lot. Fucking idiot. Hassan, please get a stylist. Your drip makes me want to cry. Okay, you can't even see what I'm wearing. Like, you're offended about my drip, but you can't even fucking tell. You can only see like literally just a tiny sliver of the drip. Stand up? No, I'm not gonna stand up. You guys were making fun of me, so I'm not gonna do that. Is that chatter wrong? They're not totally wrong. They're not entirely wrong. It's fine. All right. But yeah, okay. Let's continue. So let's get started. U.S. Iran ceasefire talks. What's at stake? Good morning, America. ABC News. Let's get started there. Vice President Vance is doing talks with the Iranian leadership. And who knows where it'll go. Also, there's Viktor Orban's final day potentially in office, right? Isn't that happening today? There's elections in Hungary, right? So we'll see. I mean, Vice President J.D. Vance tried very hard to try to engineer. The elections are tomorrow. Sorry. He tried very hard to engineer the elections, right? Doing his very best. And I genuinely feel like even in a place like Hungary, that is most likely going to backfire. Like, even if this is an important test to see like how resilient the anti-America hatred is in one of the most pro-America administration in the EU, obviously. And overall, a country that has like voted him back into office. So therefore, stands the reason that it's one of the more pro-America countries in the European Union. So we shall see if there's like a Mark Carney style situation here where the opposition wins just on the virtues of how much they despise the United States of America and any affiliations with the United States of America.
His day meeting with the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who has played a key role in getting the U.S. and Iran to a ceasefire and to the negotiating table. But there are now big issues to hammer out to reach a peace agreement.
This morning, Vice President J.D. Vance touching down in Pakistan for the high-stakes talks between the U.S. and Iran, aimed at reaching an agreement to end the now 6-week war. Vance greeted by Pakistani officials upon arrival, leading the U.S. delegation, which also consists of Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Before he took off for Islamabad, the vice president speaking to reporters.
If the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive.
God, he sucks so much. I can't get over it, man. He's on Ozempic too now, for sure. You can tell. He's Edinger Mentum posted like a unearthed old JD relic from 2019, and he was just as repulsive back then. Okay. But it shows you exactly what kind of fucking demon he is, exactly what kind of loser he is. Like, what kind of chameleon he is, basically. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because here it is. The LARP, he called it the LARP extinction event, but
They asked me.
JD Vance said Bernie Sanders was one of his favorite Dems in 2019. You know,
So I did this event at the Yale Federalist Society recently where they asked me for my 3 favorite.
are you with us or with Iran? Well, I'll tell you who I'm not with. The Epstein class. Are you with the Epstein class and their interests? Do you care about advancing the interests of the financial elite that are entangled in a complex espionage web that revolves around child sex trafficking? Because I'm not about that. I'm with the people. Are you a part of the team, little bro? You know, were you on Lolita Express? Because if the answer is no, if the answer is yes, you should go to prison. If the answer is no, then these guys are not advancing your interests at all, right? It's probably not happening. I wouldn't do that. Okay. Have you ever done a deep dive into Lula on stream? I think it would be a good example in this coming election cycle. Anyway, let's watch what JD said. Elisa Slotkin responded to you. Yo, that's yesterday's news. I know. I know she did. Yes, I covered it yesterday. Okay.
Favorite Democrats purely in terms of policy outcomes. And I said, in order, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Tulsi Gabbard.
Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Tulsi Gabbard. Look at his like lame ass socks too. God, he's such a fucking faillennial. I can't stand him, dude. I can't stand him. I despise him so much. Like, obviously, I hate his worldview. I hate what he represents. I hate the policies that his administration is advancing. But there's also something so personally repulsive about him. Okay? It's just, he has no redeemable qualities. No redeemable qualities whatsoever. It's unbearable. He's such a soulless husk, a perfect individual to become the loyal fedayeen of Peter Thiel and his crypto fascist libertarian allegiances, his libertarian allies. And he somehow banked a baddie. Yeah, because he was woke back then. That's why. Usher. He got Usher when he was woke. Remember that. Okay?
Talks come 4 days into a fragile ceasefire. President Trump expressing optimism.
We'll be able to finish it off one way or the other. It's going well.
The White House says negotiators are working off a modified 10-point proposal from Iran. A key U.S. demand, Iran turning over its stockpile of enriched uranium.
No nuclear weapon, number one.
The Iranian delegation touching down in Pakistan overnight, insisting the U.S. must release its frozen assets, tens of billions of dollars tied up by international sanctions. President Trump earlier posting on social media, the Iranians don't seem to realize they have no cards other than...
It is kind of funny that he said that and then immediately released unfroze $6 billion of assets, which is almost 4 times more than what Obama did. Okay? But that's like... Again, that's just how Trump does it, baby. He's like, yep, they don't have any other cards, which is why we're giving them a massive W. Big favor to those guys. Okay? Yeah. $6 billion green cash, money in pallets. Money in pallets being shipped. Money in pallets being shipped to Iran. No cards, failed casino owner, by the way. I mean, yeah, what are we expecting from a dude who bankrupted a casino? It's not surprising at all.
A short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways, adding, the only reason they are alive today is to negotiate. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said Friday its forces have not carried out airstrikes since the ceasefire began.
And yet bombing has continued. I find that very interesting, specifically on the GCC. Okay. In the last couple of days, there were some successful strikes on refinery infrastructure in Saudi Arabia and some of the other GCC countries. Now, I found that to be very strange because, like, Iran, the IRGC will openly admit if they're doing it, right? It makes total sense for them to say, this is why we're doing it. This is why we're continuously striking. It doesn't make sense for them to keep striking amidst the ceasefire. So that was very interesting. That was very interesting. I don't know who did it. I don't know if there's, maybe another group that has the capacity to lob missiles or bombs or drones in the direction of the Gulf states to make it seem like it's Iran continuously hitting the infrastructure. I don't know. I'm not going to say which country it could be. It's most likely a tiny nation by the name of Israel. Okay? Speculation. Wee woo, speculation alert.
But Iran has failed to meet President Trump's main condition, reopening the Strait of Hormuz. On Friday, just 2 ships moving through the critical waterway. The president accusing Iran of being dishonorable, posting, "That is not the agreement we have." But Iran claiming it's the U.S. now breaking the agreement, with Israel continuing its strikes on Lebanon. The White House says Lebanon was never part of the ceasefire.
President Trump says he thinks these talks will go quickly, but he told the New York Post that the U.S. military is resetting in case no deal is reached with Iran. Rhiannon?
All right, Karen, thank you for that. And by the way, that ceasefire leading to these peace talks is a fragile one, threatened by missile strikes that are continuing all around the Middle East. ABC's Marcus Moore is in Beirut with the latest on that. Good morning, Marcus.
Rhiannon, good morning.
The IRGC claimed credit for various attacks 2 days ago. No, that's not what I'm talking about. There have been some much more minor, but still some attacks on the refineries post ceasefire. I think it was like yesterday. The IRGC said that they were not responsible for it.
Here at one of the strike sites in Beirut, we're told that this was a multi-story apartment building that was hit on Wednesday. And you can see now it is just a pile of rubble. We're told that there were a number of deaths here. And you look at the rubble and you can see furniture in there, also see blankets. There's a mattress on the other side and even books. And in fact, this looks like study materials for someone who's learning French. That everything that you would see.
Yeah. What are they learning? What are they reading in French? Mein Kampf. But the French version, obviously.
Inside of someone's home is left exposed here in Beirut right now. And this is just one of more than 100 sites that were hit on Wednesday, not only here in Beirut, but also across.
It's unbelievable that they're doing this. Not even for, I mean, look, Israel doesn't, blow up entire city blocks for military objectives anyway. But in this circumstance, it was just to destroy the ceasefire process. It was just to see how hard they could go, how many civilians they could kill, and test Iran's boundaries and test America's boundaries as well. They didn't like that the ceasefire was taking place. They didn't like that they had no say in the process. And they just did that. That's how little they care about the lives of 300 plus people that they killed.
Southern Lebanon.
In 10 minutes. 10 minutes is all it took. 10 minutes of bombing. 300 people dead. Disgusting.
And while the Israeli strikes have slowed, those strikes are ongoing, particularly in the south. In fact, we have seen new video of a strike just yesterday in Kfar Joz. Now, Israel says that it has been targeting Hezbollah. But residents and also emergency services here say that they have been targeting residential areas. And I can tell you that there is immense sadness and anger here. Hezbollah has fired a number of rockets into northern Israel in retaliation for these recent strikes. And all of this is now playing a critical role in the effort to secure a peace agreement in the war in Iran. U.S. and Israeli officials are trying to separate the war in Iran and what's happening here as two different issues. But the Iranians have said there can be no agreement in the war unless there's a ceasefire here in Lebanon.
Yeah. As I explained to you yesterday extensively, the Lebanese government is basically doing a Vichy France style deal with Israel. They're absolutely refusing to protect their own citizens, with the hopes that Israel will just leave them intact, with the hopes that they can potentially stave off civil war. Ironically enough, by my assessment, this collaboration with Israel, as Israel is like killing hundreds of civilians, as Israel is, taking over Lebanese territory, Lebanese villages in South Lebanon, is most likely going to lead to some kind of internal strife and a civil war. But outside of that, from the Iranian perspective, their interest in maintaining a ceasefire across the board for the entire axis of resistance, not just Lebanon, because in their communiques, they say the whole of the axis of resistance, which also includes Gaza, is a part of the deal. Now, they might be saying that just so they can, they can have a better bargaining position that they can lean into if they offer some concessions. But the major point there is to undermine the relationship that Israel and America currently has, where Israel is the power player, even though America technically is the one who has complete control over Israel. They want to force America's hand into making demands that Israel has to abide by. That's the reality. And I think, and this is why I said yesterday, that is perhaps the most consequential element. Because why are you being so cynical about Iran not leaving Lebanon out to dry? No, I'm saying that is the most consequential aspect of this ceasefire negotiation. It's not the unfrozen assets, because we've stolen so much money from Iran. We have, unlimited funds to unfreeze, right? And from the Iranian side, for example, the enriched uranium is a gimme for the Americans, right? And that's part of the reason why Trump keeps angling that as their primary concern in an effort to position himself in the aftermath of the ceasefire as like the real winner, because Iran already conceded to the uranium conversation. Iran conceded twice. Well, 3 times, actually, if you consider the JCPOA as well. So from the Iranian perspective, the enriched uranium conversation, they could just like give it up. Who cares, right? So that's a gimme for them. And for the Americans, giving Iran money is a gimme because it's Iranian money anyway. And we're technically illegally holding on to, tens of billions of dollars of frozen wealth, frozen payments that Iran was supposed to receive for their oil and gas transfers to these other countries like South Korea, Qatar, and the like. We stole that money. We froze it. That's a gimme. That's an easy concession that America can make, right? That's why I'm saying the most consequential element of this ceasefire, the most consequential element of the ceasefire is Iran's demands for the United States of America to take any action against Israel, to forcibly restrain, to force Israel to scale back against their Greater Israel project, to get America to say to Israel, you're done. Enough is enough. That will be the most consequential element in this ceasefire. I've said it already. I'll repeat it. Here's what I said. I said, look, if Iran takes the unfrozen assets without reaffirming their commitment to the acts of resistance ceasefire, they will give up on the most consequential demand, which has everything to do with forcing America's hand into restraining Israel. All the U.S. concessions pale in comparison. Okay? The IRGC doesn't want the ceasefire to continue anyway, and I think it's the work of Ghalibaf and Arakshi and some of the other negotiators that want to continue the ceasefire, that want to move in the direction of a complete cessation of hostilities. The IRGC, on the other hand, I think, judging by the way they've reacted, judging by the way they were operating for the last 42 days, feels as though they have not applied sufficient military deterrence. Enough economic damage has not been dealt to the United States of America, although significant economic damage has been dealt to the rest of the world. And that's precisely the reason why America wanted to put forth this ceasefire proposal and tapped Pakistan to do so. And like I've said, I'm not. I do believe that China is probably playing a role here as well, urging Iran to take a deal because you know how China is. They want stability.
Way this morning to shore up the ceasefire agreement between the United States and Iran exactly 6 weeks after the war in the Middle East began. Vice President J.D. Vance is leading the U.S. delegation to the talks in Islamabad, Pakistan. He's joined by President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. MTS Tayeb is in Islamabad. MTS, good morning.
Good morning. Well, these are the highest level and frankly highest stakes talks between the U.S. and Iran in many years. And after 6 weeks of brutal war, which has spread across the region, killing thousands and hitting the global economy hard, the distrust between both.
Are you suggesting that the USA made the ceasefire to save the economy of other countries? I mean, oil and gas disrupts all markets. So saving the global economy is also technically to save the American economy as well. Like a little bit of instability, a little bit of volatility is an opportunity for capital owners to make money. Too much volatility, on the other hand, and all of a sudden you have an inflation crisis. People can't purchase goods anymore. People can't even produce and manufacture goods, especially if we're talking about the Asian markets where a lot of this manufacturing is taking place. If they don't have this necessary resource, oil and gas, they're not capable of manufacturing goods at the same rate. All of a sudden, you have a real problem with inflation in the Western world as well. Because oil and gas is tied to, yes, fuel, food, plastics, medicine. Everything is run on oil. Okay? So there is no, I mean, America can try to shelter the worst consequences. America can shelter its population from the worst consequences. But at the end of the day, even if there's a delayed response, it will still absolutely have it will have consequences, negative consequences on the American economy as well, because the entire financial system is designed with this intricate web where everything is interconnected. That's precisely the reason why you might think, well, we have, American companies that are based out of Silicon Valley, for example, and their profit centers are not going to be harmed. Iran can't touch, San Francisco. But guess what? Iran can blow up data centers in the UAE. Iran can blow up a AWS facility in Saudi Arabia, which they have, right? So because of the way that capitalism operates around the globe, a lot of these capital owners are still technically unsafe as long as there is an actor in the region, as long as there's a regional actor that's willing to punish profit centers, which Iran has done. This creates additional pressure for capital owners to make boss calls to Donald Trump and to demand a cessation of hostilities. You understand? So not only is oil and gas connected to the global economy, and there is obviously inelastic demand for it, you have to get it somehow. It doesn't matter, because if you don't have it, your grid fails. And we've seen one example of that. I saw it with my own two eyes in Cuba, right? That's what happens when you are not allowed to receive any oil from neighboring countries. Your energy grid falls apart. Your food spoils when there's no electricity. There's no transport of drugs, no transport for ambulances, no transport of food. Everything collapses. It becomes like everyday existence becomes unbearable. Right? You can't deal with that.
Sides runs incredibly deep as they try to hold this fragile ceasefire together and end the conflict.
Security across Islamabad is tight. A several-mile ring of armed forces made up of police checkpoints and roadblocks have been set up so no one can get anywhere near the luxury hotel where Vice President Vance and top Iranian leaders are gathering. Few here can remember a time when this nuclear-armed nation has been at the center of such intense diplomacy.
The stakes for Pakistan.
That's crazy. They're just dissing Pakistan. That's crazy. Bro, this CBS Saturday morning anchors must be Turkish. the way they're dissing Pakistan. They're like, Who would have ever thought this country would ever be at the center of such serious diplomatic negotiations? I mean, do they even have the capacity to handle such a serious conversation? Damn, bro, chill. They're the table now, okay? We got to live with that. As a Turk, I have, a secret. I have the secret pride that every Turk has when Turkey is heavily involved in the diplomatic process. When Turkey plays the role of the table, we say we are the table, okay? Sometimes we say we are at the table, and sometimes we say we are the table. But those days are long gone. It's not Pakistan that has become the table.
Pakistan couldn't be higher as it hosts this event, which is on a scale rarely ever seen here before, and it's taking no chances.
Getting the U.S. and Iran to talk after 6 weeks of brutal war has been no easy task. Iranian cities and military infrastructure have been bombed by American and Israeli forces, and Iran has retaliated by targeting Israel and Gulf states, hosting U.S. bases across the region, as well as critical energy infrastructure. Sybil Khan is a regional security analyst.
Why is Pakistan the right place to hold these talks?
Pakistan is a unique country that has really, at this moment, not always, at this moment, very good relations with all three actors. And also, Pakistan is not a complete outsider to this war.
The gulf between the U.S. and Iran remains enormous. Even Tehran's preconditions.
It is kind of funny when like a big part of the media analysis here is like, why the fuck are we doing this in Pakistan? Okay. That's kind of crazy. that like they had to go and find an analyst to answer the question that's on everyone's minds. Why Islamabad? Why Pakistan?
For the talks, a ceasefire in Lebanon, and the unfreezing of billions of dollars of Iranian assets show just how far apart Washington and Tehran are. The biggest and oldest issue, Iran's nuclear program, remains a core matter. But a new sticking point, the vital Strait of Hormuz, is now one of the key.
It's because of this?
When I will grow up, I will be an army and save Pakistan and destroy India.
I love that video, man. Oh, God. This is the reason. This is the reason why Pakistan is at the table. Turkey's got no children like that on camera. You know?
Issues. With President Trump warning if Iran doesn't reopen the strait, the fighting will restart.
Do you think this is the beginning of the end of this war, or the potential of it restarting again?
I think it's the beginning of the end of this phase of war. Whether it's going to translate to a long-term peace, I'm still skeptical about it.
And during the last two rounds of active negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, Iran found itself on the receiving end of American and Israeli strikes. Now, Tehran wants guarantees that won't happen again, while Washington has major demands of its own. Few believe the core issues will be resolved here, and given how fragile the situation is, most here seem happy to simply see this ceasefire survive. Kelly.
With correspondents standing by for us in Tehran and Islamabad, but let's begin in Pakistan, where those talks are taking place with our correspondent, Osama bin Javed. So, Osama, the Americans and the Iranians are in the same room. They were, I understand, supposed to be in separate rooms, passing messages.
For the record, J.D. Vance's appearance at this ceasefire negotiations also is more proof of the amount of unbelievable leverage Iran holds over the United States of America, because America has so far exclusively sent Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, right? I don't think that Iran believes that J.D. Vance is actually going to be like an anti-war voice inside of the admin. Maybe they do. I hope they don't, right? But maybe they do. Maybe they actually believe the memes, right? Because they are boomers after all. They're chud boomers. Yeah, they might be very well read, very well educated, and certainly understand negotiations, diplomacy, but they might still have some relic ideals like boomer idealism, where they read like a CNN article and they're like, oh, JD Vance is the lone voice. I doubt it. I think the reason why they asked JD Vance to be there is to basically flex the amount of control they have over the negotiations process, even without the demands that they're putting forth. Because this is not part of the 10-point process. This was just to even have a conversation. So for the very fact that they were capable of demanding and receiving JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States of America, in these negotiations, implies that America was willing to play ball. It shows the power dynamic at play. It shows how much leverage Iran truly has. Because under normal circumstances, if America was actually dominating Iran and Iran was begging for a ceasefire in the way that Trump has presented it, in the way that Pete Hegseth has presented it, when Iran says, oh, we're not coming to Islamabad unless JD Vance is there, they'd be like, fuck off. We're not sending the vice president. Right? It could also be missile insurance, you know? But I don't think Israel is capable of actually fighting against an enemy with a competent air force and the capacity to defend itself. So I doubt that they would try to lob missiles. At most, maybe some kind of espionage, some kind of infiltration. So I don't think that Israeli Air Force would want to go up against the Pakistani Air Force. I mean, and it's not even just memes. Like straight up, they have a competent air defense system. They have a competent Air Force. Israel can only bomb uncontested civilian lands and murder babies and children. It's not even a joke. That's just straight up the only thing they're capable of doing. But ultimately, I think the JD Vance demand that America received and agreed to is a big step. It's a big step. It shows that they have Iran has tremendous leverage over this conversation.
Messages between each other. Do we know how exactly the change to face-to-face talks came about?
Wait, Pakistan also doesn't recognize Israeli passports? This passport is valid for all countries of the world except Israel? I thought it was just Malaysia. That's funny.
Well, it is a historic moment here in Islamabad where the Pakistanis are taking credit for convincing these sides to forget their differences for a moment, sit together, resolve what they agree upon, and then move forward. We've been hearing from a number of sources who've been talking about how Pakistan has been trying to convince them to at least extend the ceasefire for a longer period, for the Iranians to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and then work on everything else that is on the table. The Iranian positions have been quite rigid. They've been talking about how there needs to be a ceasefire in Lebanon, how those assets that have been frozen by the United States need to be given back to the Iranians. And now also we're hearing now that there have been multiple rounds of negotiations, talks in a congenial atmosphere where they've also had dinner, and now there's in the process of exchanging notes. We hear from the Iranian side that their delegate level negotiations are underway, and they're going to continue to try and find avenues. One source has told us that there's a push from Pakistan to try and get at least another day, another round, another extension of these talks so they can come to some sort of a conclusive agreement. So far, that has not happened. And as you've been hearing from the Pakistani Prime Minister, this is make or break for lasting peace in the region. So Pakistani diplomats are saying they're still hopeful. They're trying to convince them to give more and to cede more ground. But it will all depend on both sides and their leaderships to figure out how they go about these talks, what will be the mechanism going forward. And now that they've started meeting face to face, can they continue doing that?
So, Hasanabi, you reported that there may be some progress on Lebanon and Iranian assets. And as you just pointed out, the Pakistani Prime Minister had really urged both sides to be flexible here. I wonder, based on what you're hearing, are the Pakistanis actually optimistic for a breakthrough here?
Well, if that is one word in Islamabad right now from the corridors of power, whether to talk to military sources, diplomatic sources, or people in the politicians, they're all hopeful that there is something on the table. Now, they don't want to, there's almost a gag order here in Islamabad where no official will speak to you because they don't want to cast any shadow over what is coming between these two sides. So they're hopeful, they're optimistic, and they're trying to convince both sides to continue talking. And that they've said that this is a platform that is available to them, whether they continue tonight, whether they continue next week, or want to come back to Pakistan. According to the hosts, they're ready to host more talks.
All right, let's see what happens. Osama bin Javed for us there in Islamabad. Appreciate the reporting. Let's head over to the White House now, where our correspondent Kimberly Halkett is standing by. Excuse me, let's head over just across the street in Islamabad, where our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett is standing by for us. So, Kimberly, look, negotiations are often about striking a conciliatory tone. That is maybe not the tone being sent out by the U.S. President Donald Trump on his social media site, Truth Social. What has he been saying, and do we know if it's having any...
I'm going to say exactly what I've repeated over and over again for the past 42 days. Donald Trump is the worst person to hear from to develop a decent understanding of how things are going. Okay? And oftentimes I'll say, like, listen, Barack Ravid, for example, has utility, right? If you want to understand exactly what will happen next, don't listen to Barack Ravid. But if you want to understand, like, what the American side or the Israeli side wants you to hear, then yes, Barack Ravid is reliable, right? Reliable in like an inverse Kramer index kind of way. With Donald Trump, there is no utility whatsoever. There is no reverse Kramer index with Donald Trump's statements because it's just inconsistent. It's just inconsistent rambling. There is nothing, you can't even use him as an indicator because in one moment he'll say he's going to nuclear first strike and do a holocaust of the Iranian population. And then a couple hours later, it's like, all right, ceasefire time, right? So he is deeply unstable and in a panic state, a chaos agent who doesn't know what his next move is. Like, he personally doesn't know what the next step is. He doesn't know what his next statement will look like. So it's precisely the reason why the worst person, he's like a cornered animal, and therefore the absolute worst person to hear from to try and develop an understanding of what will happen next. One thing that I have seen, though, consistently is the more he talks about blowing up Iran, at least like this has been the pattern, the more he talks about blowing up Iran, the more willing he is to concede to Iranian demands. At least that's kind of what has happened so far. So if there's any sort of like, reverse indicator that you can pull from his choice words, I suspect it's, his consistent agitation on the timeline, specifically on Truth Social, talking about, blowing up Iran. That means that they are going to concede to a lot of the demands that Iran is making.
Impact on these talks.
But again, I still caution you. I still urge caution here. Don't assume any sort of consistency whatsoever.
Well, we're going to get to that in just a second because I want to show you what's behind me. If you can see off in the distance there, that building that has lights all along the top is the Serena Hotel, where these talks have been going on. And I should point out, and I have not been able to confirm this because I've been standing out here, but I am relying on Al Jazeera's live updates that the first phase of historic direct talks between the United States and Iran has now concluded. So what we know is that both sides are exchanging written text aimed at confirming they're on the same page on agreements reached in first round of direct in-person talks, obviously since 1979. And we should also point out that there are some sources who are reporting, again, I cannot personally confirm this, but I have been hearing this extensively.
Why is Lebanon not called in for the... Lebanon and Israel are not a part of this process. Iran has placed Lebanese independence and the ceasefire in Lebanon on the table, and America is the country responsible for what Israel should and shouldn't do, but what's the Lebanese government going to do? The Lebanese government has no power in this process at all. They have no control over their own fucking territorial boundaries. It's not a real state. It's not a real functioning state. It's a proxy.
That there is an attempt to unfreeze some of the assets belonging to the Iranians, which we know was of a great desire. So that would be the breaking news that is just coming down, that these talks have concluded for now. The big question becomes, what happens next? Is there going to be a further round of discussions? Are they going to spend the night in the Serena Hotel and get back at it at breakfast? We simply don't know, because I'm finding out in real time, just like everybody else. But what I can tell you is that there is a real desire, given the fact that the U.S. Vice President has made the trip here, a lengthy one that involves not a direct flight, but a stop in Europe for refueling, that this is something that can be moved forward in terms of trying to iron out some of the big issues. For the United States, that looks like limiting Iran's ability to have a nuclear weapon and to get the Strait of Hormuz open. Now, again, we're going to have to dig with our sources to find out what was agreed upon in the hotel behind me there. But what I can tell you is that right now the top line appears to be that the talks have concluded for the moment.
And surely in the next couple of days, there's nothing more important on the vice president's schedule than these talks. But let's see where all this goes. Kimberly, we appreciate the reporting.
And for more on this, I'm joined.
So here are some negotiation updates as of 3 p.m. Eastern time from Dropsite News. Iran State TV says a third round of talks is set for tonight in Islamabad. Major disputes centered around the Strait of Hormuz. The Financial Times reports Iran has rejected a U.S. proposal for joint administration of the Strait. Iran insists on maintaining control over the Strait of Hormuz and imposing transit fees on ships, Financial Times writes, citing two informed sources. So I guess Donald Trump kind of threw that out there and was like, maybe we'll control it together. Who knows? Which, by the way, would still be a spectacular L for the United States of America. But Iran is, of course, not going to accept that, especially considering that deal would require the toll fee to be collected in dollars. And obviously, the big reason for why Iran wants to collect these tolls is they want the toll collection to be unimpeded by the SWIFT system, by the dollar system, which has routinely played a role in destroying their economy. America has dominated Iran economically because of the petrodollar. So I don't think that they will concede on that front. Even that concession, however, like even if Iran was like, sure, we'll do a toll collection system in tandem with the United States, that would be still an unbelievable loss for the United States of America. But given the leverage that they do have, I don't think they have to abide by that standard at all. A source close to Iran's team told Fars the U.S. is making excessive demands, especially on Hormuz and other issues. The source said ideas the U.S. failed to impose during weeks of war are now being pushed in the negotiations. So it kind of feels like they're going back to business as usual. This is exactly what they did with Hamas. If you recall, America would consistently tell Hamas, the Politburo, that they're willing to concede on certain demands being made, and then Israel would spoil the deal last second, or would just add like increasingly ridiculous demands, poison pill provisions to destroy any attempts at a ceasefire. Obviously, this situation is a little bit different because with Hamas, Israel was capable of dominating and conducting a genocide and dominating militarily, whereas in this circumstance, Iran has far more leverage than the United States of America does, right? Tasnim similarly reports excessive U.S. demands are obstructing progress despite the move to text exchanges. Iran says it is determined to protect its gains. The recap is direct negotiations between Iran and the United States took place at the Serena Hotel in Islamabad after both delegations met separately with the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. According to state-linked media, Iran agreed to enter the talks after the U.S. accepted the release of frozen Iranian assets, and Israel agreed to scale back strikes from Beirut to southern Lebanon. This is a unnecessary concession from the Iranian side, by the way, as I said, and this is my worry. My worry is that they can bribe Iran into taking a bad deal, right? Sharif. Okay. Because Israel is determined to ruin the ceasefire, and the primary, like I said, the primary goal here is to drive a wedge between Israel and America. Okay? Can you finish the content, Nuke, instead of cover the news, please? Yeah, probably not going to happen today, chatter. But let's continue. There's 8 full hours of my coverage on that, if you want to go watch it. Japanese soldiers still fighting for 34 years? Yeah, long after the war has ended. Respect. Man is committed to the continuation of drama slop amidst like world-changing negotiations taking place. I have to respect that a little bit, especially considering that we have possible real-world nukes in play. And this guy's like, well, what about this drama nuke? That's like, what, almost 2 years old at this point. I mean, it's been a year old. It's officially a year old. Anyway, according to state-linked media, Iran agreed to enter talks after the U.S. accepted the release of frozen Iranian assets, and Israel agreed to scale back strikes from Beirut to southern Lebanon, which Tehran views as partial progress on the Lebanon ceasefire commitment. It's not. It's not at all. U.S. has not publicly confirmed the assets being unfrozen. Iran made it clear it still holds the U.S. responsible for compelling Israel to fully comply to its preconditions, state media reported. The talks have today moved through several phases, opening high-level discussions, a break for expert-level committee work, and a resumption with specialized delegations joining the main teams. Negotiations are structured across 3 committees: political, economic, and legal, with Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi heading the political track, Central Bank Governor Abdul Nasser Hemadi on economics, and the Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi on legal matters for Iran. In-person talks have concluded for now, with both sides continuing to exchange written texts, according to Fars. Tasnim reports that while talks advance the text exchange phase, excessive demands by the U.S. have slowed and obstructed progress. The Strait of Hormuz remains a central point of dispute. The same was reported by the Financial Times. Iranian officials are reportedly adamant in that their military gains be preserved and national rights safeguarded. A source close to the Iranian delegation told Fars another round of talks is likely tonight or tomorrow. So that's where we're at. Okay. How did you pronounce Garibabadi? Fast, but not Sharif? Okay. Anyway. So yeah, as you can tell, one of the hardest concessions to get across. One of the why won't you become a politician? Always advising and criticizing others. Coaches don't play a guy. The real easy answer for that. I have a lot more impact where I can highlight and push for 50 candidates rather than spend all my efforts on one candidacy, my own, in one race with no guarantee that I win. All right, so let's continue.
In the studio by our military analyst Sean Bell and Middle East commentator Tara.
What is this? They're doing this for Spain?
So we were just hearing from Dom all that's happening in.
Oh, they're doing this in Spain? What is this? The Israeli Foreign Ministry tweets, an appalling anti-Semitic hatred on display here is a direct result of the Spanish government, Pedro Sanchez's government, systemic incitement, and even now the Spanish government remains silent. The Spanish charge d'affaires was summoned for a reprimand. You know what's funny about this is like doing an effigy for Benjamin Netanyahu and blowing it up is classic. It's ironic because effigies have played a big role in Israeli politics as well. They used to do this for the opposition leaders and even in certain instances, Benjamin Netanyahu himself. So the idea that this is like, you know, the idea that this is a severe slight against Israel, an anti-Semitic slight against Israel is really funny. This person says, an effigy bothers you? You've been burning real children for 3 years. No one gives a shit about your feelings. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, if you don't like my war criminal, you're anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semitically not liking, the modern version of Adolf Hitler. Sorry. How dare you? Iran and the U.S. began a new round of trilateral talks. Iranian state media reported. Fars News is saying it may be the last opportunity in this round due to U.S. demands. It's currently 1 a.m. in Pakistan. Yeah, so I keep stressing this over and over again, but the number one demand and the toughest one to achieve from the Iranian side is trying to get America to rein in Israel. Okay? Now, in a normal world, this should not be that tough of a demand at all because America is the senior partner in this coalition. Okay? For all intents and purposes, America could make one fucking phone call and stop Israel altogether. That's just the reality. That has not changed. That certainly has not changed since Joe Biden, and it didn't change under Donald Trump either. Plenty of American presidents have actually done that singular phone call to rein in Israel. So, unfortunately, the dynamic has shifted a little bit. Although America still technically retains all control over whatever Israel chooses to do, America's not enforcing that or hasn't enforced that since the Obama era. Okay? The JCPOA was the last time the United States of America did something that was in their own interest as far as pursuing diplomacy with a foreign adversary such as Iran that Israel did not like. Since then, Donald Trump became president. Joe Biden became president after, and then Donald Trump came back again. And administration after administration, the relationship has shifted in favor of Israel. Israel getting into the driver's seat and basically controlling all American MENA policy, right? Middle East and North Africa policy. And this is obviously the final stage of that relationship where Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting in the Situation Room, and it's such a gross and such a flagrant abuse of that long-standing relationship at this point, where the power dynamic is totally shifted into the hands of Israel, that even the New York Times is reporting on it. Okay, that's very significant. New York Times is a Zionist newspaper. New York Times is a very pro-Israel newspaper, and it's the same New York Times that actually covered the internal dynamic. So that is significant. That means that even pro-Israel newspapers have realized that they have to offer this kind of coverage. They have to show the truth about like where American foreign policy is and how much undue influence, how much outsized influence Benjamin Netanyahu truly has over what we're doing.
In Islamabad, or at least, what should be happening, hopefully will happen. And in the meantime, we're getting these posts on Truth Social from Donald Trump. I mean, it was quite long, I read it out, but we are now starting the process of clearing out the Strait of Hormuz in favor of countries all over.
Isn't it just an opinion piece? No, it was Maggie Haberman. It was not an opinion piece. That was straight reporting from the New York Times. It was crazy to read. That was great investigative reporting from the New York Times, which has seemingly retained that capability of conducting investigative reporting and offering accurate reporting on America's relationship with Israel. Seemingly, they retained that. They just never used it. It's kind of like reading that article for me. It kind of felt like, when you see a cop deal with like a drunk white guy or like an ICE agent or something, and you're like, oh, so you do have the capacity to de-escalate. You just choose not to do so in most circumstances. Like, I read that piece on the New York Times. I was like, oh, so this is a real newspaper. This is why they call it the paper of record, the gray lady, because you have that capacity. You just have been, for the last almost 3 years, you have refused to utilize that capacity and have been burning your credibility in the altar of defending Israel. So, interesting stuff. It was totally leaked by Israelis for Israelis to feel some way. I don't think so, because I think that is a very dangerous gambit. The more Americans are aware, the The New York Times readership is the last bastion of defense of Israel, okay? It's all the highly educated NatSec liberals that work in think tanks, that have direct relationships, are big donors to campaigns. People who have a lot of belief and a lot of investments in Israel. When those guys read that reporting and they go, "Oh my fucking God, okay, this has gotten completely out of control." You're losing like the last group of people that had any defense of Israel whatsoever in mind. And Israel has already lost the overwhelming majority of the American public. If anything, this is a terrible prospect for them, because this invites additional scrutiny from like the last remaining group of people that are on board with Israel's interests. Yeah. Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu's doing this as well. Very cool. Very cool. New Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says in a televised address that campaign is not over yet, adding that Iran had sought to eliminate Israel but is now struggling to survive, and that we still have more to do. Cool. Great. He's every day with his fucking stupid maps and PowerPoints, dude. 40 years this guy has been doing this shit. I'm telling you, it's a double suicide pact. Obviously, Zionism being a fascist ideology is a suicidal ideology, just like Nazism was, right? But it's crazy that they're pulling us along for the journey. It's wild. What will it take? What will it take for the American government to be like, we're done. We're done here. This is unbearable. This is unbelievable. What the fuck? Yeah. Meanwhile, South Korea has gotten increasingly more frustrated with the way that Israel is behaving. And the South Korean president actually, had some choice words for the Israeli occupational forces violence that they've subjected Palestinian teenagers to, and they criticized it very publicly. It was very unique. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what that means in a little bit, but this is funny. Mark Ames reports on the United Arab Emirates not taking defeat well, retreating into wounded delusions of grandeur that could get dangerous. Here is Amjad Taha, an Emirati expert in strategic and political affairs. He says, as long as the UAE is not in Islamabad, J.D. Vance and the Islamic regime in Iran will fail in Pakistan. The UAE does not and will not accept the Islamic regime in Iran controlling access to the Strait of Hormuz, nor possessing nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, drones, or any capabilities that threaten regional security. This regime must issue a formal apology to the UAE for its aggression, acknowledge its actions, provide full compensation for any harm caused to individuals and institutions, and guarantee non-repetition. Otherwise, what comes next will be devastating for this terrorist regime. I love this. I love this because you know what this kind of posturing reminds me of? I mean, this is coming from the most like no motion ass junior partner that has been treated like, a bullet magnet for the last 42 days. Like Israel doesn't give a fuck about the UAE. America doesn't give a fuck about the UAE. Nobody gives a fuck about the UAE, right? But it's really funny that they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, our revenge will be swift. Okay, it'll be glorious. Now, what's funny is there's a reason why they're not, at the table. Yeah, someone said Pakistan is the table, the UAE is on the menu. Yes. And we don't give a fuck about you because you are dumb, to be honest. I don't know what this is. Is this a Dubai chatter chiming in? Anyway. So, obviously, the UAE has no motion or no say in what takes place in the negotiations, right? But what's really funny about it is it reminds me of something I've been seeing more and more often from anti-Semitic, Groyper, neo-Nazis on the timeline who have spent most of their lives talking about how, Jews control the media, Jews control the American government, Zog this, Zog that, Zionist-occupied government, whatever, right? And now that it's kind of like a QAnon guy that sees the Epstein stuff and has to pivot away from Epstein for some reason. Like, this is the most Israel controls American foreign policy moment that we have ever seen, at least in my lifetime. This is the most like convincing of this theory. And instead of recognizing that and demanding change, a lot of the anti-Semitic groypers have decided to chirp in a way that's not dissimilar to the UAE, where they're basically saying like, well, you can do whatever you want in the Middle East as long as you just let us keep deporting immigrants. Like, please, Israel, let us keep deporting immigrants. Like, as though Israel has any say in the American immigration process. Like, you have, like, this is why I always say, like, if your primary purpose is like, if your primary focus is like anti-Semitism, if you don't have like any serious analysis, and it's just like gripes that you have envisioned in your mind, it is very funny where you're just making concessions to Israel and making demands of Israel somehow that you believe controls all aspects of American society. And I personally think it's very funny and not dissimilar to the way that the UAE is approaching the subject, where they have no motion, no power whatsoever, and they're just making like belligerent demands of Israel. That is not Nick Fuentes' position at all. Okay, Nick Fuentes, defender. I don't know what Nick Fuentes' official position is. I haven't heard from him in quite a while, as a matter of fact. So I don't know. But what I'm talking about is some of the groypers that I've seen, they keep saying, well, Nick Fuentes had a similar concession as well. He literally said, Israel, if you kill Hassan, if you assassinate Hassan Piker, you will be able to win over the entire groyper neo-Nazi community. I have heard him say that, but you know, that's neither here nor there. Where is it? Where is it? Let me see if I can find this groyper that I saw chirping on the timeline. It's very funny. I'm trying to find it. Hold on. I think it was Matthew Petty that also retweeted it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. This guy. I don't even care anymore. Just shut the borders and dismantle the work visa programs. That's all we want. We'll even let you attack any country you want in the Middle East. Breaking. Representative Thomas Massey calls for an end to all U.S. foreign aid. And then this like neo-Nazi on the timeline. This neo-Nazi on the timeline is like, come on, dude. I don't even care. I don't even care if Israel controls America anymore. Just like pleading. Pleading to the Jewish hypnosis machine to no longer allow America to have unrestricted third world immigration. Like in his mind, in his headcanon, it's the Jews that are responsible for the Great Replacement. But he's like, please, please. It's funny. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck to this guy in all of his future endeavors. Don't know how you exist in this like completely idiotic space. This is a serious question. I feel dumb asking, but is Jewish hypnosis a real trope? Yes, I guess. It can be. I'm using it jokingly. Space lasers is another thing that people claim. I literally know a guy like this. He's insanely racist, has 3 kids. Bro lives like a hermit in Tacoma and rants about Indian people at Safeway he works at. Nice. The Goy beam. Yeah. Shahbaz Sharif is traveling to KSA on an emergency basis. Whoa, what? Big development. If Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is traveling to KSA on an emergency basis, that likely means the USA and Iran are agreed that Pakistan and KSA will be doing a joint patrolling of the Strait of Hormuz. My source in Washington, D.C. confirm. Yeah, patrolling the Strait of Hormuz while the IRGC still collects a toll. Like I highly doubt that the KSA and Pakistan are going to be, or the Iran is going to relinquish control over the Strait of Hormuz to Pakistan and the Saudi Kingdom. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't agree with this assessment at all. Lol, UAE would allow all that? What? The UAE, yeah. The real senior partner in this coalition, the UAE, will have some choice words. Anyway, meanwhile, while all this is happening, of course, Trump is, Trump has been going on a tear, demanding that, where's the latest Trump tweet? Hold on, let me find it real quick. Oh, here it is. Trump says, fake news media with Trump derangement syndrome loves claiming Iran is winning. In fact, everyone knows they are losing and losing big. Praise be to Allah, he writes from his golf club in Virginia. The fake news media has lost total credibility, not that they had any to begin with, because of their massive Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. They love saying that Iran is winning when, in fact, everyone knows that they are losing and losing big. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft apparatus is non-existent. Radar is dead. Their missile and drone factories have been largely obliterated, along with their missiles and drones themselves. And most importantly, their longtime, in air quotes, leaders are no longer with us. Praise be to Allah. What the fuck?
May Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States.
The only thing they have going is the threat that a ship may bunk into one of their sea mines, which, by the way, all 28 of their mine dropper boats are also lying at the bottom of the sea. We're now starting the process of clearing out the Strait of Hormuz as a favor to all countries all around the world, including China, Japan, South Korea, France, Germany, and many others. Incredibly, they don't have the courage or will to do this work themselves. Very interestingly, however, empty oil-carrying ships from many nations are heading to the United States of America to load up with oil. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I'm saying the ceasefire is going nowhere. I mean, he hasn't threatened to nuclear first strike Iran in this speech, so maybe you're right. Because I feel like the more belligerent he gets, the more aggressive he gets with his speech, that's the only reverse indicator I've seen so far that, concessions are imminent. Please tell me this ain't the ultimate Israeli shit. Yeah, I covered this already earlier. Trump Sunni arc. Will Trump praise Allah again by April 15th? They're coming up with corrupt schemes you couldn't fathom in your wildest imagination. There's no way that's a real poly market bet, right? Was that a real poly market bet? That's crazy, man. So someone is just like, I mean, this could be the guy writing Trump's tweets, right? Just putting 30 grand on there to be like, all right, I'm going to fire this off, make a cool 30 grand. I don't think that's true. I don't think this is real. Are you asking chat to look at Polymarket? I don't believe it. Did Polymarket user bet Trump would praise Allah on Easter? Rumor of no. That's the old one. But this one might be fake too. Iran disputes U.S. claim of Hormuz transit, says warship turned back under threat. So this is one aspect of the inconsistencies. Okay. There are claims that multiple U.S. naval vessels have crossed through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? Iran disputes this, but this is something that we can visually confirm, I suspect. So I'm not entirely certain on what took place. Okay? Not one, but two. There's also another conversation taking place about whether or not Iran, the IRGC Navy, actually put mines in certain parts of the strait. Although tankers have still passed through the Strait of Hormuz, there are claims that certain parts of the strait have been mined. Okay? What is this? Okay, why are you guys yelling at one another? So, U.S. vessels attempted a very high-risk operation to create the impression that the strait is open, to come through, take a souvenir photo, and say, hey, I crossed, said Nima Akbarkhani, speaker on the state media, disputing U.S. claims that two warships, the USS Frank E. Peterson, DDG 121, and USS Michael Murphy, DDG 112, transited the Strait of Hormuz. He said the ships used electronic warfare, hugged coastlines, and spoofed their identity as smaller local vessels, at times positioning behind other ships to mask movement. As usual, it pulled every trick in the book, he said. The vessels do not appear on Vessel Finder, Kepler, or Marine Traffic. Akbarkhani said Iranian forces tracked the vessel, locked anti-ship cruise missiles onto it, and warned it to turn back within 30 minutes or be struck. He added the IRGC naval forces saw it as the best catch we've had in a while, but were held back due to the ceasefire. His account directly contradicts U.S. Central Command, which said the two destroyers transited into the Persian Gulf and began operations to establish a safe maritime passage and ensure the strait is fully clear of sea mines. CENTCOM said the mission includes clearing mines allegedly laid by Iran's IRGC and preparing a route to encourage the free flow of commerce. Additional U.S. assets, including underwater drones, are expected to join in the coming days. USS Frank E. Peterson is part of the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, while USS Michael Murphy is independently deployed, according to USNI News. Bloomberg, on the other hand, citing a regional intelligence official, reports that two U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyers attempted to transit the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, but turned back after encountering threats from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which also launched a drone towards the vessels. The incident occurred around noon Dubai time, as U.S. and Iranian delegations were in Islamabad for negotiations, the official said. The account contrasts with the U.S. Central Command, which says the destroyers successfully passed through the strait into the Persian Gulf as a part of a mission to clear alleged sea mines and establish a safe maritime corridor, a claim Iran denies. Okay? Dude, ChatGPT, this guy went into the ChatGPT machine, and the ChatGPT machine spat back something I have literally said. It's so funny. Critiquing the Democrats is fine, but saying they're no better ignores reality. The Biden-Harris record was containment, and the JCPOA, the current record, is dropping bunker busters on mainland Iran and pushing regime change. By refusing to back flawed diplomacy over a literal hot war, you aren't being anti-imperialist. You're just letting perfect be the enemy of good, while actual people pay the price. Yeah, dumbass. If you had the capacity to think on your own and listen to the things that I have said consistently on this, you would know that one of my major criticisms of Biden was not continuing the Obama legacy of the JCPOA when he had the opportunity to do so, because his brain had melted and leaked out of his fucking ears. And not only that, but also he was a major dick rider of the state of Israel. That's it. That was a criticism that I had of the Biden administration. A continuation of the Trump policy of no diplomacy with Iran. Which inevitably led to exactly what we're watching currently. It is funny to talk to me about this, though, of all people, because, you know, I had the guy who wrote the JCPOA sitting right here. And not only that, but I also had a Democratic congressperson just last night on the broadcast, Ilhan Omar, and I asked her about why Biden had not continued the JCPOA, or what some of the criticisms of the JCPOA, even under the Obama administration, were, where she said the Obama admin $3.8 billion a year annual MOU that is slated to end was a concession made to the Israelis for even allowing diplomacy to take place with Iran. And that long rant for someone who's unfazed. Are you an animal? I dignified you with a response, and that's your counter? Not only did I dignify your ChatGPT assessment with a response, I gave you additional clarifications, and you just went long rant. Like you're a fucking caveman. You were like, I couldn't understand what you're saying. Jesus Christ. That's incredible. It's my job. My job is to explain stuff to people that don't understand it, you know? If you are sincerely coming in here with questions, I'll offer clarity. Perhaps it was my mistake that I accurately clocked that he was, you know, engaging in cognitive offloading and couldn't come up with his own statements, with his own criticisms, and utilized a computer. You know, next time I'll be more careful. Pakistani sources tell CNN that the overall tone and the outcome of the U.S.-Iran talks in Islamabad has remained largely positive, but that a stalemate persists over control over the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? So, we don't know what the situation is. Where's Kaya? There she is. Only address the dumb but genuine questions. I mean, I tried to. Bloomberg is denying or contradicting the report that that CENTCOM put out. I still don't know. I still don't know what the reality is. Like, were American destroyers capable of maneuvering through the strait and crossing it or not? So funny that the war made Iran realize it doesn't need nukes as long as it has control over the strait. Pretty sure Iran will want to either have nukes or control the strait going forward. Trump really fucked up there. Please don't tell me you believe CENTCOM, bro. I don't, but I have seen some naval assets. I've seen some people on the timeline post like visual imagery of naval assets crossing the strait or looks to be crossing the strait. But I haven't seen anybody actually like on OSINT identify if those were taken recently or where they were taken. I haven't seen anything. Like, I haven't seen any visual confirmation. So, but we will find out soon enough. I mean, it's impossible for massive naval assets to be able to cross the strait after 42 days of not being able to transit. It would be a huge deal. So, Azure Rhett, thank you for the 150 bones. Respect. Goddamn. Thank you. The Piker Broadcasting Service thanks you. PBS for tomorrow's news today. So they're using that fuel that we really don't have the ways to pull a gotcha? No, it would be significant. First of all, it wouldn't be a gotcha. It is in America's interest to position some of their naval assets inside of the strait, crossing through the Strait of Hormuz, so they can potentially use them in the deployment. Because right now they have a shit ton of destroyers that they can't just like push through into the Persian Gulf. But if they were to conduct any military operations on the Iranian coastline, if they were to conduct any military operations such as like overtaking Karg Island, obviously naval assets would play a formative role in that. Even with all of that, there's no guarantee of success, but they would certainly need it, right? They would certainly need to move some pieces. So we shall see.
The world, then he lists them and then offends them because says, they were too cowardly to do it. To both of you, Sean, if you want to start, just what do you make of him interjecting the whole time with this kind of statement?
It's very odd, isn't it, when the negotiations we understand have actually started. We also understand they are face-to-face.
Like, here's the reality, okay? We know by now, I hope, and I'm sure Iran knows, that the only way to achieve a diplomatic success is through military power, okay? The only reason why Iran currently is able to collect reparations for the damage America and Israel has caused is because they militarily control the Strait of Hormuz, right? That's it. The only reason why J.D. Vance is in Islamabad right now is because America has not been able to successfully attrit Iranian strike capabilities and destroy these massive missile cities, right, that are deep underground. If America was able to achieve military success in the last 42 days, this conversation would not be taking place right now. Okay? It just would not be happening. So you have to keep that in mind. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because if Iran, now engaging in diplomatic talks, offers consistent allowances to the United States of America to make even subtle tweaks physically, by moving assets into the region, moving assets through the strait and into the Gulf, that's a major escalation on the American side that requires military deterrence to be reestablished. If they don't do that, the Americans and the Israelis, right? This is a similar situation with like Israel striking Lebanon after Iranian demands of a ceasefire that also factors in the Lebanese territories. When you allow these guys on the American side or the Israeli side to take an inch, that'll be very costly down the line. That means that they no longer respect you. That means that they no longer trust that you are capable of engaging America and Israel militarily. They are not looking at the lost assets. They don't care. Okay? Think about it like a reset. You give them an inch, you'll lose a mile. It's that simple. So if they were to let American naval carriers pass through the strait, that's a devastating blow to the leverage that Iran has, because Americans will look at that and go, see, they're too afraid. Israelis, when they blow up Lebanon and kill 300 plus people in one day, in a matter of 10 minutes, and then Iran says, okay, going forward, if you scale back on your violence and only keep your bombing campaigns to southern Lebanon and southern Lebanese villages, then that's fine. That means we're moving in the right direction on these talks. You've already you've already given a major concession, and you've taught the Israelis a very wrong lesson. And strategic restraint under the leadership of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei only led to tremendous defeats for the axis of resistance. Okay? I'm not one of those guys who's armchair quarterbacking here who says, like, Iran, keep blowing up Israel, like, what the fuck? I'm simply looking at the way that the Israelis operate, the way that the Americans operate, and it's impossible for me not to recognize that if you actually make any concessions on the most consequential aspects of this ceasefire negotiation, then Israel learns the same exact lesson you've taught them before and assumes that you are too afraid, assumes that you don't have the capabilities to respond militarily, and they will only double down, triple down, and in the process, a lot more lives will be lost.
That they're not being mediated backwards and forwards. Straightforward moves, it was interesting. It wasn't an issue before the war, now is an issue. There's no military solution to that at all. But it's interesting that we heard that US military vessels were moving into the strait. The assumption is, you remember, just at the southern edge of the strait, there was that proposed minefield, and therefore it sounded like they were going in to clear that minefield to try and help Iran open up the strait. Iran has immediately denied that they've actually done any of this, and they've threatened that if the US warships go in there with 30 minutes, they will actually start attacking them. But also, Trump's tweet talked about US has got double the amount of oil that anybody in the Middle East has. By context, the Middle East has already had its fingers burned by President Trump. He didn't tell them about this war coming. They've suffered massive attacks. They've ended up going to have to spend a lot of money and time actually recovering from that. So Keir Starmer, quite the opposite, has been going to the Middle East trying to help protect the Middle East, because when the war is over, relations will look a bit strained. And I do think there's a really interesting concept around this, around the role of China potentially in all of this.
Indeed, and to the effect of the impact on Gulf countries, of course, the U.S. bases there, one can argue, have really become a source of liability for the Gulf countries, of course. And, indeed, then that argument can prompt us to think, are they looking for other security arrangements? And that's where the role of China would come in. And is China going to fill that gap? And when it comes to oil money, Barbara, the Gulf countries indeed relied on the petrodollar, not just now, but the investments that they've made mainly in the AI sector in the U.S. We have to remember that, and the impact that that would have moving forward, given that then they would be most likely using this petrodollar in the damage control and essentially rebuilding of what was lost.
Yeah, also because now they're not considered the safe havens that they were before for tourism and other things. Listen, if we go back to the meetings in Islamabad, there's such a massive gap between what the Iranians want and the Americans want. Where do both of you, and Tara, let me start with you now, where do you think the area for possible compromise might be?
Well, as Dom was saying, I think the issue of the nuclear program is not something that you can resolve overnight, right? First of all, we don't know how long these talks are going to go on. We don't know if it's a 2-day summit or how many days it is.
The Pakistanis said it was going to be 2-3 days, but frankly,
exactly. So this lack of clarity begs us to ask ourselves, what is it that is going to get resolved here? And I think at the end of these talks, one thing might be easy to assume is that both sides will claim some sort of win if, of course, we get there. But for the Iranians, I don't think the nuclear program would get resolved because it's a very technical topic. The United States does not have that technical support right now, whereas the Iranian delegation has brought some of the same people that were part of the 2015 deal. But a win for the Iranians is, again, survival out of all of this, a guarantee for their security, of course, and preventing a repeat of this war, all the while the sanction relief and the unfreezing of their asset. But Barbara, it is vital for us to underscore that the delegation is being led by an IRGC commander, someone that back in, again, 2015 was not in support of the JCPOA, was not in support of dealings with the West. In fact, in the Biden administration, he was against the revival of JCPOA in Iran. So this person has acted long as a spoiler. Now he's heading the talks with the blessing of the supreme leader.
Which is interesting because leading the U.S. delegation is J.D. Vance, who, you know, following all reports, was never a supporter of this war. So it's interesting the two people leading the two delegations, I guess, in trying to bridge the gap.
Yeah, but also I think from the US side, it's a lot simpler, I think. We sometimes risk overcomplicating it from a US side. I think President Trump just wants to get his hands out of the mangle quickly, focus on the midterms, get the price of oil settled down again, and just move on. And I think he's already said Iran...
Indian media is so jelly that it's happening in Pakistan. Oh, yeah.
Now, as you watch this, delegations from the United States and Iran are either airborne...
Dude, I love Indian media, though. Like, they got the coolest fits, the coolest guys, and they unironically say the coolest shit. Okay? Zero trust, zero alignment, zero adjustment, zero compromise, zero good faith, zero goodwill, and a terror sponsor as mediator.
Or have already arrived in Pakistan for ceasefire talks. And I want to be very honest with you tonight.
They hate that Pakistan is lying right now. Okay? And as a Turk, I kind of understand. Okay? As a Turk, I feel that jealousy. I will admit. Okay? So my heart is with India on this day. I get it.
Night viewer. Things have never looked more precarious. The alignment here couldn't look worse. The two sides, the US and Iran, have spent the last 48 hours going out of their way to make clear that there is no common ground. You just heard what the Iranian Assembly Speaker has actually said. He said, unless my conditions are met, I won't even be starting these talks. Violent opposition on key issues, zero clarity on the path ahead. This is not the posture of two parties, US and Iran, that are ready to try and strike a deal. And yet, they are both either in Iran. Iran's delegation has already arrived in Pakistan, and the J.D. Vance delegation will be arriving there in a few hours from now, to the same city. And that brings me to the city, the venue of these ceasefire talks, Islamabad. These talks, can you believe it, are happening in Pakistan, a state sponsor of terror that Donald Trump is using.
They got Ian Bremmer? Bro, they got Ian Bremmer on. I love that. That's awesome. India's at the table too? Yeah, it's on the side of the table. Trying to get to the table, and they're like, no. This one's even better. Legit crash out. Dude, that's awesome. No, this is not real. There's no way, because there's no the break. There's no glass breaking. There's no way this is real. That's AI? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Come on, man. Come on, chill. There's already plenty of real crash out moments. You don't have to fucking pull AI shit.
Using as a dog on a leash to serve his immediate interests, and Pakistan is simply playing along. They don't have a choice, of course, but perhaps because it is the only country on earth willing to slaver and degrade itself for a Trump endorsement. Their prime minister even copy-pasted.
Wait, you can't be saying that. You can't. Come on, man. India saying Pakistan is the only country willing to slave itself for a Trump endorsement? That's crazy. Okay. Willing to degrade itself for a Trump endorsement? Really? Pakistan is the only country willing to do that. Interesting.
an instruction from the White House and embarrass themselves. Remember that. And that alone should tell you everything about the credibility of this ceasefire.
My American white ass dad has smoked for Pakistan because he has some Indian friends. Is kind of funny. I love that. I love white people in America taking ownership over ethnic gripes of countries far, far away. Okay, that's awesome. I kind of respect that.
Process. But here's what makes it even more unstable. Pakistan's defense minister, Khwaja Asif, has just shamelessly today deleted an official tweet in which he called Israel a genocidal, cancerous state. Right at the moment that Trump is almost certainly trying to pacify Israel and get it to stop bombing Lebanon or to grit and bear whatever ceasefire framework emerges from these talks. That deleted tweet by Khwaja Asif, the defense minister of Pakistan, is not a small thing. It is a window into exactly how fragile this entire arrangement actually is. The host, Pakistan, cannot hold a consistent position. The two parties won't look at each other.
Okay, but Pakistan is far more cooked than even India. Like the entire leadership is just U.S. Pope is the most popular leader in Pakistani history, rotting in prison. At least India has a homegrown fascist leader. True. But again, it's just funny to watch like Indian broadcasters get mad that Pakistan, through all of the fucking wheeling and dealing, turning them into a servile vassal state that is perfect for whatever American ambitions are, for them to criticize because they weren't diplomatic enough with all of the other regional partners, in spite of the reality that they are obviously on the same same spectrum. Justin, Uganda's military chief demands $1 billion from Turkey and the most beautiful woman in that country for a wife, threatens to close embassy if demands not met. Oh, come on, man. What? The fuck is going on? Is this for real? This seems like a racist tweet. It's just, what are we doing, man? Why are you sending me fucking polymarket tweets? Have you ever heard anyone say we will destroy American civilization? No, because there is no American civilization.
What is America? Does it have a civilization? No. Does it have a history? No. What is America's greatest contribution to the world? Tesla, McDonald's, and the atom bomb. Ladies and gentlemen, who are the greatest performing artists of the United States of America? Bruce Springsteen. Ladies and gentlemen, a country with a history of just 250 years. A country built on the back of slave labor, slavery. The only history of America, if you go back to the greatest past, which is just 250 years back, which is modern history for real civilizations, is slave history. Ladies and gentlemen, on the other hand, Persian civilization.
Bro, this is India's Goebbels? Wait, really? This is India's most right-wing nut job, by the way? Dude. God, I'm fascinated. It's fucking fascinating. You know? Indian diplomacy is not as black and white as you often contend. No, I know. India is one of the most fascinating countries because they are the ultimate play both sides always come out on top country. Turkey does a good deal of that as well. A lot of these countries have realized that they have to maintain decent relations with every party involved. This is Modi's ass kisser like Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend? Hell yeah.
Predates Alexander. It is parallel to the Greco-Roman civilization. Persepolis ruins speak about the grandeur of the Persians. Trump is simply a jealous old man. He is jealous of the fact that Persian civilization was thriving when there was never an America, when all the continent of America was a vast swamp, a jungle, and the European man had still not come out of a cave, ladies and gentlemen.
Lamau, you haven't always contended that some people are delusional. Yeah, I've like, even look at Russia, right? Like, I've talked about this a lot. America's Hassan Piker problem.
It's Saturday,
Leisha
April
Miller did a video about me. What the hell? Oh, hell yeah. That's sick. In a historical sense, would it make sense to interpret American empire as just a reskinned continuation of British Empire, like a sort of amalgamation of European imperialism? Europe can't wash its hands of America's sins. Yeah, 1 minute ago. Damn, what a pull. All right, we'll watch it in a little bit, okay? Let's let it fester a little bit. Does her ass think she's winning this PR battle? Wait, what? Whose ass? No, I don't think Leisha Miller is going to be attacking me. What are you, crazy?
11th.
I think she'll have a very good she'll have a very solid assessment on this. Yeah, she's not as libbed up as people think she is. If that guy's super far right, why does he dislike Trump? I'm confused. There could be a million different reasons for why that guy, the Indian Tucker Carlson, well, not even Tucker Carlson now. I don't know what a better analog is here. Didn't they try to ban you for saying exactly this? What is this? I don't know. I don't know what Tim said. She said you're built like an inverse bobblehead and wants you to choke. Okay, calm down. That's not true. FD commenters aren't very happy. What is this? European airports face jet fuel shortages within 3 weeks. 2 hours ago, edited. All this so Israel can pursue their forever war. EU should impose a toll on any flights and cargoes to and from Israel. Enough is enough. Ban them. Treat them like they treat Lebanese and Palestinians. Boycott, divest, sanction. This will quickly resolve the Middle East problems. Ayatollah winky face. Bro, when you got Financial Times chatters, Financial Times commenters that have paid for a subscription to the Financial Times saying boycott, divest, sanction, things have escalated. Okay? Anyway, did you know you had your own controversy in India 2 weeks ago? A famous Indian actress, Aneet Padda, was forced to unfollow you. No, I did not know that. That's crazy. Aneet Padda faces backlash for following Hassan Piker after his terrorist state remark on India. Aneet Padda has been making headlines recently. The actress facing controversy after she was found following political commentator Hassan Piker, who allegedly called India a terrorist state after Operation Sindoor. I think I said a rogue state. Bollywood actress Aneet Padda has been quite active on social media lately. The controversy started when some users noticed that she was following political commentator Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker is alleged to have called India a terrorist state during Operation Sindoor. As soon as the matter came to light, people on social media started criticizing Aneet. However, after controversy escalated, Aneet unfollowed Hassan. But by then, the issue had become quite viral, and people were constantly reacting to it. What the hell? There are... I got beefs that I didn't even know about that have already concluded. That's crazy. Why are you doing this, man? Wait, what? I didn't even know that I was a known entity in India. Your fans are fighting your battles abroad. Chud ass streamer moment. Bollywood goss on the broadcast is wild. I mean, I'll take it. PBS for yesterday's beefs today. Yeah. What did Reet Padda say about Priyanka Chopra? Apart from this, Reet Padda also gave her opinion on international issues. She asked actress Priyanka Chopra why she did not speak openly on the issue. Oh, she's based. I mean, it makes sense. She was following me. Well, that sucks that they bullied her. I'm sorry. Follow her, bro. Oh, that was her sister. We're 1.2 billion people, man. Not all of us are Hindutva freaks, and I defend you all the time as a leftist Indian. No, I know that. What are you talking about? I am very aware of that. What is this? This is the clip that made the rounds. Aneet Padda used to follow Hassan Piker, who called India a terrorist state during Operation Sindoor. After social media outrage, she unfollowed him, but it still raises questions about her ideology. Oh my God, they're fucking crazy. Wait, it wasn't even her. It was her sister. Oh no, it says it was her. She was following me. Dude, it sucks that so many of these countries, whether it be Israel, whether it be India, whether it be my country, the United States of America, my other country, Turkey, is just like utterly dominated by an unbelievable force of reactionary unks that are just bullying people into submission all the time. It's so crazy. I feel for the people that are fighting the good fight, no matter where they are, whether it be India, whether it be Israel, the 12 Hasanabi heads that are anti-Zionists in Israel, or you know, those in Turkey too. Anyway, I like you, but I'm a robot built by the woke left gay agenda. True. A buddy of mine has a politics channel in their Discord server. Your name has been mentioned in it 300 times. 200 of them is one guy who hates you. Yeah, that tracks. In my experience, it's usually when someone hates me, it's not like a normal amount. There's no like, oh, I just kind of dislike this guy for his takes. Maybe some of his takes are good. They become unbelievably obsessive, and I don't know what it is. I don't understand it. I don't know why it takes shape that way, where people go from changing their entire worldview. Like, people go from like, oh, I disagree with him on this one thing, to every single thing that he has ever said and done is wrong and horrible, and I will make it my life's mission to attack him, to attack anyone who aligns with him. I will choose to destroy his life. It's very strange. Amy Goodman's peace sign. Thank you for the 50 gifted. Nah, you just have selection bias because you're the one on the receiving end. A lot of people are just casually like, just fuck that guy and don't think too hard about it. No. Dude. This isn't my assessment. This is the assessment of friends that I have that are only like tangentially related to me, who have been on the receiving end of just a fraction. You're wrong, chatter. I wish that was the case. I wish that was the fucking case. It's like, that's not my point. Is I'm sure there's plenty of people who are just like normally being like, oh, I don't really fucking understand what this guy's about. I don't really like him, whatever, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people like that, but there is the average lib account that hates you tweets about you like 500 times a day. Yeah, this is what I mean. If you see a centrist liberal account tweeting about Hassan, check their profile and see how many times they've mentioned him these past 2 weeks. This is not normal. Like, you can admit that this is not normal, right? Like, this is hyper obsessive. Like, this goes from like, I dislike this take that he had, which is a normal and healthy attitude to have, to I want to kill him. Like, I'm manic and I want to destroy this person. Like, I want to destroy him with all my might. I will do everything in my power to obsessively tweet and attack this person every single day of the fucking week. It's very weird.
For many hours, as you probably have noticed. We'll see what happens. Look, regardless, we win. Regardless what happens, we win. We've totally defeated that country. And so let's see what happens. Maybe they make a deal, maybe they don't. From the standpoint of America, we win. One other thing that's happening is that boats are sailing up and heading out to our country. Big, beautiful tankers, and we're loading them up with oil and gas and everything else. And it's a pretty beautiful thing to see.
What about release Iran's assets in other countries?
We're going to see what happens. We're in very deep negotiations with Iran. We win regardless. We've defeated them militarily. They've dropped a couple of water mines. You call them water mines in the boat. We've defeated all of their water boats, too. Their Navy has gone 158 ships. They have 28 water droppers, mine droppers, they call them. All of them are sunk. They probably have a couple of mines in the water. We have mine sweepers out there. We're sweeping the strait. In addition to that, we're negotiating. Whether we make a deal or not makes no difference to me. And the reason is because we've won. Whether you listen to the fake news or not, you know, it's amazing. Their credibility is down to 13%. The media credibility down to 13%.
Just like the Iranian Navy has been deteriorated, the American news, fake news media's credibility has been deteriorated down to 13%. Perhaps from the standpoint of credibility, American media is worse off than the Iranian Navy.
Think of it. We defeated their Navy. We defeated their Air Force. We defeated their anti-aircraft. We defeated their radar. We defeated their leaders. Their leaders are all dead. And now all we do is we'll open up the strait, even though we don't use it, because we have a lot of other countries in the world that do use it, that are either afraid or weak or cheap. I don't know what it is, but we were not helped by NATO, that I can tell you. How do you know that? Why do you say that? Why do you say that? You don't know anything. Who are you with? Who are you with?
NBC News, Julie Circuit.
ABC?
NBC.
Well, that's fake news. Let me just tell you, we win, no matter what. We've defeated their military. They have no navy. 158 ships are underwater, undersea. All of their minesweepers and all of their, they call them mine droppers. Can you imagine? A country has 28 mine droppers. You think that's nice? With all of that being said, they're all defeated, by the way. They're all at the bottom of the sea. Now, with all of that, they have no navy. They have no radar. They have no air force. Their leaders are all dead. Khomeini is gone. For many years, he ruled. He's gone. With all of that, let's see what happens. But from my standpoint, I don't care. Well, if China does that, China's going to have big problems, okay?
Oh, he's mad. He is not having a good time, man. Holy shit, Hassan, Trump is extra brown on his forehead. He's been praying double, bro. He's a devout Sunni now. He's got the prayer mark that only the most devout Muslims have. The China thing is obviously the Bloomberg report that came out that states that U.S. intelligence indicates that China is preparing to provide Iran with air defense systems in a matter of weeks. CNN reported Beijing is expected to ship shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles known as MANPADS, man-portable air defense systems, something that, if you recall, I brought up when the extraction operations were happening, the combat search and rescue operations were happening, where I noticed a lack of MANPADS for the Iranian ground, the Iranian troops on the ground. It's a really important part of anti-air defense systems. I was actually surprised. Now, here's the thing. Are they talking about rocket launchers? I mean, they're not like rocket-propelled grenades. They are like they have lock-on capabilities. They're much more advanced than like an RPG. They're anti-air missiles that you can launch from a solitary unit on the ground. So think javelins and COD for the chatters. Yeah. I don't think they are capable of hitting jets, obviously, but they will do a lot of damage. I mean, they'll easily destroy helicopters, but if they're low flying enough, they could even do damage to the jets too. Javelins are for ground-based targets, but it just locks on. It's basically a fucking portable anti-air defense system that locks on to aircrafts that are either flying low, like low-flying fighter jets, if they're flying low enough, low-flying aircraft that that can destroy cargo planes and absolutely helicopters too. Can be used for sea defense. Ukraine has used it this way. Yeah. Stinger missiles are the American MANPAD. Afghans used MANPAD against the Soviets. Even back then, it was insane. Yep. Saeed Hassanabinejad from Foundation for Defending Democracy, which is Benjamin Netanyahu's own personal Israeli think tank, Israel's very own cutout in D.C., says China is watching closely and might have already made its decision to move on Taiwan. If we cannot finish the job against the Islamic Republic, a third-rate aspirant power lacking a credible Navy, Air Force, or integrated air defense, because we are unwilling to tolerate marginal and temporary increases in gas prices, then there's little reason to believe we could mount a sustained defense on Taiwan. If this trajectory persists, Taiwan is effectively lost already. Now, he's not wrong, except he's saying that because he wants to agitate. Okay? He's saying that because he wants to get Trump to go back into the battle because that's what Israel wants. Anything that these guys say, understand, is basically what Benjamin Netanyahu wants to communicate to the American public. That's what FDD is, right? He's technically not wrong, though. Okay? I mean, he's wrong on this. Like, China is watching closely and might have already made his decision to fucking move on Taiwan. That part is just made up. But this part is correct. the meat and potatoes of the statement is absolutely correct. The problem, however, is because that assessment is correct, Trump shouldn't further instigate and get drawn back into a much larger, much longer conflict that will be much worse for the global energy markets. This is the most absurd fanfic nonsense. If China was going to invade Taiwan, the West have given them a dozen outrageously good opportunities to do it. It's clear China wants diplomatic reintegration, not militaristic. Yes, that's my assessment of the situation as well. Many people get mad at me for saying this, but judging by the numerous opportunities that China has had to engage Taiwan militarily, and from what I have said, what I've seen, what I've read from Chinese analysts, it doesn't seem to be the case that they're not even remotely invested in like turning Taiwan into Ukraine, right? That's like the worst possible outcome, because the attitude from the Chinese state, the attitude from the PRC is that they're also Chinese. They're also Chinese. We don't want to kill them. We just want peaceful reunification. And the reality of the matter is peaceful reunification every single day it becomes a much stronger outcome because of America's instability and America's inability to defend its allies, defend its strategic interests as well as their allies, right? So why the fuck would they do that? Like, yes, I will be talking about the KMT leader meeting that took place as well, but in any case, Saeed says this. Murtaza Hussein's assessment is the war that FTD steered the U.S. into with Iran has now drained for years the critical munitions that the U.S. had been relying on for conventional deterrence in Asia, while also demonstrating an inability to defend regional bases against the strike munitions of a power far weaker than China. If your goal was avoiding war in Asia, the silver lining of this may now be that regional powers in Taiwan decide resisting China is futile and the U.S. is incapable of defending them, and just make arrangements accordingly. The leadership of the Taiwanese KMT party is in Beijing today. Another lesson for NATO countries here as well, for the record, that in many respects, you should be very grateful to Ukraine holding back on further Russian incursions, successfully defending Ukrainian territory, at least the parts of the Ukrainian territory that they've been able to defend. Because I don't think, and I said this way back in the day as well, and a lot of people got frustrated with me, that the only reason why America would choose to defend any NATO nation with Article 5 or whatever is to flex its military might. America would not defend any Eastern Bloc countries, Eastern European countries in the NATO alliance on the virtues of preserving their sovereignty, on the virtues of like defending their lives. That's just not a thing. That's not in the calculation at all. There are certain countries that I assume, or I used to assume America would choose to defend if it got to like, Germany, right? But even then, I'm not so sure, right? But I do know that ultimately NATO defense from the American calculation is simply for American force projection capabilities. It's not about actually saving the lives of these people that live in these countries. Now, of course, you don't really have to worry about that because Russia has demonstrated that although they might have an ambition for further incursion into Ukrainian territory, they are incapable of achieving those goals, right? Just as Ukraine is incapable of pushing back the Russian forces beyond the territory that Russia has already militarily annexed, Russia does not have currently the capacity to push further beyond the lines that they've taken over, and Ukraine unfortunately has no capacity as far as what the battle lines show to push Russia out of Ukrainian sovereign territory. Yeah, I mean, this is Mark Rutte openly admitting this reality, something that obviously I've said for many years. Here he is saying the quiet part out loud. Here, you hear it directly from Mr. Daddy.
NATO is there to protect us collectively against any adversary, be it Russia or whoever, or terrorism. But also it is a platform for the United States to project power on the world stage. Because this whole operation now, this whole campaign in Iran, needs these basing requests to be positively engaged with by NATO allies, as they are doing, making use of key assets here in Europe. So the fact that we stick together, the United States and Europe and Canada, is crucial also for the success of this American-Israeli campaign. NATO is there to...
Is this person AI? No, unfortunately, he's not. Very real guy. And also, I assume he was chosen for this position because his mouth is real wet. You know, he's got a real wet mouth, and Trump likes how wet his mouth is. Because his purpose, his singular purpose, the reason why he was put on God's green earth is literally to fly to the United States of America, get on his hands and knees, and suck off the American president, okay? I mean, he literally has texted Donald Trump calling him daddy. And that was like right out the gate, okay? My mother watches you. Okay, well, you know, I'm not going to shelter her from the truth. This is what Mark Rutte's job is. It's disgusting. Military intelligence in Denmark have already warned our government that we should not consider the Americans to come and save us in a potential war, and that it would also no longer be unthinkable that we would go to war against America in some way in the future. NATO is so cooked. Yeah. He is a spineless, demonic entity, and perhaps one of the most servile figures I have ever encountered. Okay? He is the living, breathing personification of the vassal state of the European continent. Okay? Because at least in Trump 1, Europeans, just like the Democratic Party, saw Trump as an aberration, right? They were like, oh, this is a one-off. We're going to get back to business as usual. Trump 2, very different circumstances. They realize now, just as the Democrats do, just as the European allies do, that this is just what America is. And this is what America will continue being. So they totally changed their restrained approach and just gave in. Rutte is the most honest manifestation of that servile status. Yes, he's worse than Starmer. He's one of the only people in the European continent worse than Kid Starver. He's currently in the United States. He's currently in the United States getting his ass beat by Donald Trump, like in a weird, twisted BDSM situation. He literally goes into meetings in the White House. Donald Trump berates him. He sucks him off. Donald Trump berates him further. Then after the meeting is over, Donald Trump tweets out that, you know, NATO is the worst piece of shit on the planet, whatever. Right? I mean, he's the biggest cuck.
President Trump threatened to
Yeah, Mark Rutte is the cuck that all other cucks think about when they hear the word cuck.
kill collectively. When President Trump threatened to kill the entire Iranian civilization, did that bother you at all as a diplomat?
13 years of his leadership, Dutch are doomed. I feel so bad. Yeah, he also destroyed Netherlands in the last 15 years. Yeah, he's Mr. Austerity. Just an unbelievable demon, dude. The manifestation of liberalism on the European continent in one singular force, all the way down to how servile he is. It's everything that I am frustrated about with the current state of affairs in what is supposed to be the shining beacon of social democracy, right? Like, regardless of my worldview, regardless of my ideological tendencies, like, it's still supposed to be like a positive, a positive example of like what America could look like potentially if we were to restructure our economy in some ways. And this is the demonstrable failure of liberalism, and what he was, I mean, what he is saying and doing is perhaps indicative of the current state of affairs in Europe, better than anybody else.
What I always say when it comes to
what leaders are saying, I'm not commenting on everything. What I want you to know is that I support the president, and I know large parts of Europe do when it comes to taking.
Bro, you can shit on us Europeans all you want, but we are still living better lives than 90% of you. I don't know why Europeans get offended on this. Dude, we're in the same situation. Like we are dealing with the same exact forces, okay? I'm not shitting on you directly. I'm shitting on your leadership, and it's not different than it's no different than me shitting on my leadership. You sit there and you listen to what I have to say when I'm dunking on the Democrats, dunking on the Republicans, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, very good. Jawohl. And then the moment that I fucking turn the crosshairs on to your leadership, you're like, wait a minute. And I've done this for years, right? Like you're a 50-month subscriber. You've heard me. You've heard me complain or warn the Euroids in the chat over and over again for years, almost a decade now. I've said, look, what you are laughing at with us right now is your future. It is going to happen to you as well. That future is here. It's now, right? That future is already happening. It's happening at an accelerated pace, far beyond my comprehension. I never thought that I would see European fascism manifest in this like very obviously pro-America manner, because Europe is where fascism was invented. That's why it's so crazy to me. I look at like European fascists nowadays, the guys that you guys have to deal with on a daily basis, unfortunately, many of which are in the Asmongold chat. Usually some of them are probably in here right now because Asm is not streaming because he got banned. Like, those guys are all MAGA. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, do you have no decency? No honor whatsoever? Where you're not even invested in your own national sovereignty as a fucking European fascist, and your demonstration of European fascism is quite literally just MAGA revolving around one guy. It's not really pro-America anymore. You got fascist Italy shitting on US as well. I mean, that's closer to post-World War II historic fascism. That is something I also called out ahead of time as well. Meloni was always going to be pro-NATO. She was always going to basically become like a center-right figure, because that's what European fascists post-World War II did, right? That's why they were placed in positions of power, specifically in Italy, Operation Gladio. What's actually been really interesting about Meloni is that she's also now critical of America more so than what I expected. Now, obviously, it's all aesthetic posturing, but that part has been surprising. I thought she'd be like a Orban-style figure by now. Just unlimited dick eating of America, but she has actually turned into like a Macron almost. Very weird. Maybe it's because of domestic considerations. You confuse European fascism with American MAGA movement. The fascists here actually have nationalism and history they care about. I don't know, man. I think the international fascist coalition just has become America first, weirdly enough. Like the biggest, like most viable fascist movements, and it's like political expressions have been parties that are running with the America first narratives. Pete is upset with the ceasefire.
Winning. Decisively, devastatingly,
According to President Trump, War Secretary Pete Hegseth is disappointed about a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. He has been among the most aggressively pro-war officials to lead the Pentagon. Watch.
Decisively, with brutal efficiency, methodically, ruthlessly, and overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly. We're doing it overwhelmingly, and we're doing it decisively, unrelentingly, unapologetically, utterly dominant. Total dominance, total air dominance, nothing short of devastating, decimating, devastating, decisive, ruthless. Our capabilities are overwhelming violence of action against those who deserve no mercy, without mercy. We're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display, overwhelming force, overwhelming firepower, overwhelming and unrelenting, overwhelming and unrelenting, overwhelming, unrelenting. We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated, crippled, flattened, toast, degraded, and annihilated. Obliterated, defeated, functionally defeated, destroyed. Overwhelmingly.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. Totally. That's real. Anyway, new negotiations updates from Dropside News. Iran-U.S. talks in Islamabad have now continued for more than 8 hours, according to Iranian media. What the fuck is the time now? It's like 2 a.m., no? A new round of trilateral negotiations between Iran, the United States, and Pakistan began around 4 p.m. Eastern, with Pakistani officials mediating in the room. Abbas Araghchi, Mohammad Baghar Ghalibaf, and Ali Bagheri Khani are representing Iran. J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner are representing the U.S. Fars reports that due to what Iranian officials describe as excessive demands from the U.S., this round likely represents the final opportunity for both sides to reach a common framework. Talks are ongoing. This is a consequence of intense globalism. Fascism is not based off of logic or self-survival. It's a suicidal ideology. It's all vibes-based, and the USA dominates and controls Western internet both through population and literal control. There is some truth to that. Iran's Ghalibaf met face-to-face and shook hands with Vice President J.D. Vance, a rare moment given decades of hostility, source New York Times. Mark Carney says, the days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollar to the United States are over. Thunderous applause. I mean, Carney is like one of the best examples of all talk, no work to show for it, if I'm being real. Like, there have been some opportunities for Mark Carney to actually make a convincing case that he truly is moving in a different trajectory. One of which was obviously going to China. He did that already, and that's fine. That's a significant move, right? And having a bilateral economic relationship with China, that's significant. But what he could have done in the last couple of months was absolutely continue sending oil to Cuba, and especially after the Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs, which took away Trump's capabilities of implementing ridiculous tariffs willy-nilly out of nowhere. He could have done so. He didn't. They sent a lot of humanitarian aid, and that's fine. That's great. But there have been opportunities, like one of the biggest gimmies that every middle power has right now to show that they are real, to show that they are actually invested in their own sovereignty and invested in building new coalitions against the rot that America presents around the globe, is criticizing Israel. Technically, it's not even criticizing America, although we all understand that criticizing Israel would be criticizing America. But like, it's one of those things that you could do. Pedro Sanchez is doing it right now. Okay, he's absolutely leading the way, charting a new path in developing diplomatic relations with Iran directly. Like, even if it's aesthetic, even if it is just for aesthetics, okay, which I think it is. Pedro Sanchez, I think, is trying to do in some ways what we're kind of seeing build in the United States of America as well, like to address the growing wave of leftist resentment. He's trying to lean into that side a little bit to maintain power in the hands of the center-left parties, in the hands of like social democratic parties, right? But even statements like that matter, because statements like that are consequential. Now, obviously, if you lead if you follow through on those statements with like actual economic punishments to the state of Israel, you can carve out a different path for yourself, right? Brother, he is literally in China right now. This is not aesthetics. No, going to China is I already admitted that. That's a big commitment. But that's not necessarily saying like we oppose American imperialism, we oppose American empire, we oppose the actions, the belligerent actions that America is taking that is ruining the planet. You know? Not that it matters, because with Mark Carney, for a lot of the Canadian liberals, from what I've seen, they actually really appreciate all the anti-American posturing, and seemingly Canadians so far are not demanding material changes, right? Like, because his approvals are pretty high, right? From what I understand, his popularity is very high. So like, even saying those words, saying we're going to chart a different trajectory for ourselves, we're going to develop sovereignty away from the United States of America, is enough for, here we go, coping about Canada. Wait, what? I'm asking a question to the Canadians in the chat. What I have seen about his approval ratings is that Canadians, by and large, actually really appreciate the things that he's said thus far. Like his Davos speech was huge, right? You know, New World Order, liberalism is failing, all this stuff. But his approval ratings wouldn't be super high right now if people realized that it wasn't just words, if there was actually some changes that were being implemented as well. I think that the deal that he cut with China was massive, and that was enough for a lot of the Canadian liberals. Like a lot of the Canadian population saw that and were like, okay, good. Like, I'm happy. I'm confident. It's up. Hasanabi, even the Conservative Party members are jumping ship for the libs right now. Yeah.
The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollars to the United States are over.
Like, is it actually over though? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's saying the right words, right? And there's an incredibly positive response to this, understandably. I mean, the very fact that he won after the party changed leadership against PP on the conservative side was directly a reaction by the Canadians who saw what conservatives represented. They hitched their horse to the wrong wagon, being a fucking servile territory to the United States of America after Donald Trump threatened to militarily annex Canada. Whether it was a joke or not, it doesn't fucking matter, right? That delivered a devastating blow to the conservatives. And Mark Carney recognized that, and he has been saying all the right things against the United States of America, and he is receiving tremendous popularity as a consequence of that. But Canada is still very much attached to the United States of America for understandable reasons. I mean, America is a massive consumption engine. It's right there. It could present a very real threat to Canada's national security. It's understandable to a certain degree. I'm just not seeing enough movement from Canada as far as like a forcible separation from America or setting up side deals with other middle powers, because that's the only way that these middle powers, whether it be the European Union nation states or Canada or Mexico, all these countries, they have to set up a separate bloc away from the United States of America so that they can actually preserve their sovereignty and dignity. I think that's the only way to go forward. And that bloc could present a lot of pressure. That bloc could actually put a lot of pressure on America. Like right now, there are basically every country in the Western world is frustrated with the actions that America has taken at the behest of Israel. They see it. They recognize it. If we can see it, they can see it too, right? They're frustrated because it's created tremendous instability. Energy markets in a state of panic, in a state of disarray. There's only like a finite amount of jet fuel remaining for countries like the UK. They want this to stop. They recognize that this was a ridiculous action of this ridiculously belligerent action that nobody was expecting, nobody wanted, even if they would have entertained it in the past. They very quickly realized it was a devastating move. And they're suffering the consequences of that. So how do they respond? Because given the vassalized state of all of the other countries in the Western world, they currently have no way to apply pressure to America, diplomatic pressure, no way to apply pressure to even Israel. They have to do that. If they don't do that, they're going to consistently suffer because they're stuck in this state where America tells them you're going to move in this direction, and they're the European populations are going to suffer the consequences of that, as they have done so. I mean, even Korea is taking a different approach now. So we'll see. The middle powers don't want to pressure the U.S. to become a normal state again. They want to decouple and reduce the leverage the U.S. has on them. The change has to come from the inside the U.S. I don't think so. I don't think they're trying to decouple from the United States that much. But we'll see. He's literally a member of the international bourgeoisie. He was a governor of the Bank of England, for fuck's sake. I don't believe a word until he actually makes concrete steps to oppose the U.S. It seems like he's just cynically using lip service to boost his own approval, like Democrats using Trump bad instead of actual policy. Yeah, that's my assessment as well. That's what I'm saying. Because Trump is a belligerent monster that is dangerous and very unstable. So you don't know who will be on the receiving end of his mania next time. You know what I mean? His hands are full with Iran right now. And every other country around the planet should be grateful for the Iranian military retaliation, because that has that's caused his attention to shift and focus on just Iran, just the Strait of Hormuz. Because who knows, man? He could just turn around if this situation wasn't happening in Iran. He could just be like, all right, it's time for Cuba. We're gonna fucking starve Cuba. We're gonna kill Cubans. We're going to take over the Cuban island, and then we're going to take Canada. Who knows? He's already threatened to go back to Greenland the other day. Like, even amidst this quagmire, you are crazy for praising Iran? Okay, buddy. Even amidst this quagmire where, Trump is obviously a bit off, a lot more than he could chew, he's still threatening to fucking annex Greenland. He said it like yesterday. I love when I offer analysis, okay? And a chatter just immediately reveals, he's like, I'm just stupid. I don't understand. Like, I heard, a couple keywords in succession, and I have no way to understand the point that you're making. Okay? Thank you, chatter, for revealing how low your fucking IQ is. Anyway. Media credibility is down. It's so down. It's in the pooper. It's in the toilet.
Doesn't have any cards. Well, they do. And as also said, the nuclear thing is 99%. Well, actually, before the war, Iran had sort of committed to not developing a nuclear weapon, subject to lots of caveats. If they simply stick by that position, I think Trump could just walk away and go, we've achieved. The Strait of Hormuz is the really difficult one here.
Exactly, which in ways one can say was a creep mission. So could it be that after these talks, however many days they will continue, some sort of consensus over the Strait of Hormuz?
What is this? There's a tremendous amount happening that isn't hitting your news, and that's a good thing. You aren't looking in the right places, and that's fine. Keep us out of the spotlight for another 5 years, huh? I'm actually glad you think that. It's good cover. Yep. Right now he could. We know that. What? I don't understand. Like, what? Is this a secret Canadian weapon that you're building or something?
Would be that win.
And I think that's a really critical one, because my worry here is if Trump tries to negotiate the Strait of Hormuz and comes up with some compromise about allowing tolls or control, that would have profound implications globally, because that would set a precedent. Even the North Sea, Straits of Gibraltar, all over the world, that can't happen.
Creating other problems to try to solve one.
Yeah.
Sean,
bagged milk, eh? How about bagged nukes?
Thank you both.
United States and Iran have been holding face-to-face negotiations here in Pakistan. They are the highest level talks between the two sides since the 1979.
The fuck?
Diplomacy, the world's media are waiting for news of any developments. We have so far limited information about how those talks are going. What is significant is that they are continuing. But we do know that there are key sticking points to talk about. One of them is that ceasefire in Lebanon, which is missing and was meant to be part of this ceasefire, which...
Why Skinny Van still look like a fatty? How he pulled that off? I don't know. I don't know either.
Had stopped attacks against Iran. Well, my colleague Lucy Hawkins later in this program will take a closer look at what is happening on that front. But let's start here. So let's start here in Islamabad. It's been our top news all day on the BBC, and of course, it's making headlines right around the world. These first face-to-face talks between a delegation from the United States and Iran in the presence of Pakistani mediators. The goal is to try to bring an end to this war now in its 6 weeks. But there are other broader points of understanding of the differences and divides between the United States and Israel that both sides have been trying to resolve for many years. But we still don't know if they've been able to make any progress on closing those gaps. What we do know is that technical teams have joined the delegation, and that is a sign of very serious engagements. As we've been saying throughout the day, it's very frustrating for the journalists, perhaps good for the negotiators. Very little information is getting out, very few photographs and images. But when the day began, we did receive both photographs as well as films of the individual meetings between the sides. So the U.S. delegation, led by the Vice President J.D. Vance, had their own talks, bilateral talks, with the Pakistani mediators, including the Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, and to the Iranian delegation, led by the Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, had his own discussions, accompanied by the members of his team, with the senior Pakistani military and political officials. But let's look in detail now at some of the sticking points that are likely to stand in the way of any real progress in resolving the differences that have been fueling this war and could, it must be emphasized, trigger another escalation in this all too dangerous war. Top of the list is now a new problem that has been put on the agenda by the war, and that is what will happen to the Strait of Hormuz, that key waterway for the world's oil and gas traffic. But it has been mainly blocked by Iran, though only those tankers and vessels approved by Iran have been getting through. And it's a very, very small number compared to the traffic before.
Does the Israelis not being there say a lot about the negotiations? Yes, it says a lot about well, I mean, I guess Israelis are there, right? Both in spirit and their interests are still being considered. But they can't enter, no, that stuff doesn't matter. Like, they would do it somewhere else then if they couldn't technically enter Islamabad. But I think that the fact that these ceasefire conversations are taking place already is a significant issue for Israel. And I mean, here, I'll skip this and I'll show you why it's significant. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement for the media because of how frustrated he is. Let's take a look.
Dear citizens of Israel, my brothers and sisters, the campaign is not yet over, but we can already state...
This was, of course, in Hebrew, just so you understand. It's like auto-translated by AI on YouTube. But, like, again, it's significant that he's, this is a Hebrew response, so he'll be a lot more honest about how frustrated he is.
Clearly. We have historic achievements. I want to remember where we were. Iran tried to trap us in a ring of fire. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Assad regime in Syria, the militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and Iran itself. Meaning, they wanted to strangle us, and we are strangling them. They threatened us with annihilation, and now they are fighting to survive. We struck them, we still have more to do, and I will detail that short.
The worst weatherman I've ever seen. Yeah, is always hailing bombs, dude. When he gets in front of a fucking map, just know bombs are hailing, all right?
But I want to start...
Look at how small Israel actually is. Tiny nation. It is the size, as you can tell from this map, of New Jersey.
With Iran itself, the head of the...
Notice how there is no West Bank. Because we've taken it.
The octopus, because I have dedicated a significant part of my life to preventing one thing. That this regime of terror gains nuclear weapons with which it seeks to destroy the Jewish state and end Jewish history. I spoke about this in Congress, at the UN, and in various parliaments. I authorized all sorts of operations, most of them covert, to delay them, and we indeed delayed them. But the world did not listen. Many said, it is not that terrible, it is not even that terrible that Iran will have nuclear weapons. I heard these voices not only outside, I heard them even within us. And I, as Prime Minister of Israel, head of the one and only Jewish state, could not accept that.
Real voice.
And the great change happened that evening of Days of Repentance, when I informed you that our courageous pilots were in the skies of Iran, striking targets all across Iran.
Fox News right now, hit piece on you, bro. I'm checking it. It's not on
We
yet.
were the first to break the barrier of fear, the fear of acting in Iran itself. And I remember my feeling. What excitement, what pride, goosebumps. And I know that you all experienced it too. We were the first to act because we knew what was at stake.
Dude, it's crazy that they're just doing hit piece after hit piece. It's unbelievable. Like, Fox News has decided I am the Democratic Party. Like, the Republicans are like, you know what? Fuck the Democratic Party. We don't need to combat the Democratic Party. We need to combat Hassan, a fucking Twitch streamer. It's so ridiculous. They're making sure Trump sees it. I mean, what's going to happen? What's he going to do? Kill me? I mean, I guess, maybe. I don't have that level of emotion. I just don't understand. Not just the Republicans. I know it's the Republicans who are obviously super pro-Israel, but then it's also the super pro-Israel Democrats as well that are leaning into the Republican hit pieces. And I don't understand it. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Truly. I am, at least from my own estimation, I'm small fry shit, you know? I'm fucking Twitch streamer. Like, sure, I have a level of popularity. Why is bro watching? As Dem Senator calls out far left streamer, asks how a normal person would go on such an antagonistic show. Like, they're finding themselves aligned with like Elisa Slotkin. You know what I mean? Like, this is not an attack on a U.S. senator from Michigan who is a Democrat. This is an attack on a Twitch streamer where Fox News is siding with the Democratic senator.
Now, I was like, you're never going to get canceled up in Michigan. You're always going to be welcome here. But the fact that literally they're all like, defend our democracy. Oh, shush, shut up, cancel him. Make up your goddamn minds. Either we're for everybody in the room or we're not.
They tell us that we can't win a seat because we got the wrong name or we're with the wrong person. We don't.
In the last 2.5 years, they smeared people like myself and people like yourselves and said that we were radical. But now I can easily say them because I'm no longer alone.
Piker's inclusion is causing a headache for Democrats as he has a long history of making anti-Semitic and anti-American comments.
Anti-American.
Rapes happened on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this
Oh, they're
much.
doing the
Any
CNN
kind of,
cut now.
Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a rabid neo-Nazi. America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
Now, some Democrats are sounding the alarm with the founder of the Third Way think
I'm
tank
telling you, they're
calling
like
for the
they're
party
literally promoting Democrats. They're promoting Democrats. They're like, look at these good Democrats. They're smart.
So, Tommy, there's this huge, obviously, division within the Democratic Party.
But we got the full panel.
So Hassan Piker, he tried to walk back his statement about America deserving 9/11. He said it was more about foreign policy. You have Democrats who are appearing with him saying, just because I appear with him doesn't mean I agree with him. So they're trying to soften it a little bit, right? At the same time, you have so many Democrats calling for the 25th Amendment for our president for what he said to a country that wants to wipe us from
he's the president.
Face of the
I'm a
earth.
fucking Twitch streamer. How are they trying to make this dynamic work?
He has to be removed from office, but they can make the excuse to stand next to this man on stage.
And I'm sorry, I'm still a little taken aback that the good people of a state like Michigan would elect someone like Rashida Tlaib after listening to her comments. She's an elected member. Hassan Piker is an influencer, right? So I think that the things that he says are gross. I think a lot of them are for clicks and for money. That's the currency that a lot of these people operate in. Does he believe all the nasty things he says? I don't know, but he's making money off of it. The fact, though, that we've got elected representatives that want to be seen with him and that they themselves speak in a very similar way, by the way, and that you have candidates that want to be seen with him. You know what he said in that clip there, now I'm not alone, there are so many of us. I'm thinking that's the terrifying part. The terrifying part is that this is the new Democrat Party. They want to be Mamdani. They want to be Hassan Piker. They want to be Rashida Tlaib. They want to cozy up with this because they are this. And that, to me, is what's more distressing.
Yeah, and Joey, Democrats,
you'd think Fox News is incredibly worried about the future of the Democratic Party with the way that they're so considerate about how they win elections.
Let this happen. Let them feel like they can cozy up to this. Let them show their true colors. I don't know where the Democrat primary is for Senate in this Michigan Senate race, but if for some reason Abdul El Sayed wins that primary and it looks like it'll be Mike Rogers against him, I would buy a billboard everywhere my money would allow, a picture of that Democrat
that'll definitely work.
And the quotes under him saying America deserved 9/11 and in the smallest text possible, Hassan Piker, because let Hassan Piker represent them when they go up in a general election, and everyone in that state has a chance to care. Right now, it's a Democrat problem. Let Democrats turn their problems into our problems in the sense of in the campaign, so that people have a chance to see who they really are.
Yeah, David, I'll let you get your 2 cents in real quick.
Let them speak. Let them show themselves for who they are. They're more out there. Rashida Tlaib said it. They're trying to shut us down. I don't want to shut you down. I want to amplify what you're saying.
Yeah, they're very loud.
And by the way, not just for the U.S., this needs to be seen all over the world because this problem is all over the world.
Yeah. Well, coming up, Vice President Vance is in Pakistan to negotiate.
That's awesome. Have they generally just forgotten about you with Mamdani? I don't know. I don't know if they... Dude, why does this look like a creep shot? I mean, it didn't work. It's not going to work this time either. I don't know why like elections are supposed to be won and lost on what you can offer people. Okay? This kind of outrage manufacturing is not a reliable way to make or break elections. It's just not. And you want to know why I know that? Donald Trump became president not once, but twice. Okay? If that was successful, if outrage manufacturing around statements was successful, Donald Trump wouldn't have been president twice. Okay? And not only that, but also, I'm not running. I don't know if Fox News knows that. I don't know if Third Way knows that. I don't know if the Democrats that have been chirping about me know that, but I'm not a fucking senator. I'm not running for office. Okay? So it's doubly stupid that they just keep doing that. Actually, it will not only not work, but Abdul is literally going to explode in popularity because he's going to get more attention. The fake progressive McMorrow on MSNBC strat was working before they took you on. He's going to win because of this dumb shit Lamau. I hope that's the case. We'll see. We'll see. But one of the major issues for the Abdul El-Sayed campaign, from my estimation, was the fact that Abdul was not getting enough coverage. That race was not getting enough coverage. He certainly wasn't getting a lot of coverage. And now people are actually tuning in to see, what this dude's about. And the best part about it is it's actually the Republicans that are yelling at him. So now he can fight back against Republicans. Now he can show the Democrats in the Democratic primary what kind of senator he will be and how we will fight back. The greatest gift that could happen in this situation is if Donald Trump not only yells at me, but yells at Abdul. If he tweets out something about me, tying it back to Abdul El-Sayed, please. Inshallah, it will happen. I mean, I will put my life at great risk if that does take place, but it will be a tremendous gift. Now, having said that, I still don't understand why they've just kept tugging on this cord. Because the statement in and of itself, if you are, I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of like a Gen Xer, lead poison generation person, or a boomer that's watching Fox News, right? And I'm hearing my favorite commentators in the middle of the day make comparisons between a fucking Twitch streamer, a thing that I don't even understand because I'm 85, and the president. It's back. It's back. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. It's not over. It's far from over. M Israel High. I just want to say, I love the beautiful nation state of Israel. Most glorious country on earth, size of New Jersey, but the power of of the entire world. Israel simultaneously is a state that both has nukes and doesn't have nukes, depending on who's asking. And it's the only democracy, not only in the region, but also the only democracy in the world, if you think about it, really. Just getting that out of the way, you know? Just getting that out of the way. Just want to make sure that everybody understands what my positions are. I love Big Yahoo. Big Yahoo is the GOAT, okay? Best guy around. Yes, Israel totally invented hummus. And, yeah. A big part of the focus on you could be the distract from Operation Epstein's Fury. Yeah, but like, I don't know how successful that is. You know what I mean? I don't know how successful that will be. Especially when they say like, I'm anti-America, but then they also say I'm like anti-Israel or they say I'm anti-Semitic, but then they show like choice quotes. Obviously they clip it out of context, whatever. But like, most people that are also anti-Israel understand how that kind of stuff works, right? Where they know, and you know, lucky for us, the overwhelming majority of Americans are anti-Israel. So they've heard it so many times where they're like, I've yet to encounter a person that's like, you know, I'm very critical of Israel's genocide, but also I really don't like the way you communicate about it. You know what I mean? It's only people who have like heard the choice quotes and maybe think for a brief moment before someone explains it to them that like they might come across as anti-Semitic or something, right? No one who's like anti-Israel is going to hear any number of different statements and just turn around and be like, well, yeah, that's the real problem of the statements of a fucking Twitch streamer and not like, you know, the apartheid state committing a genocide with our tax dollars that's currently also controlling American foreign policy and has is leading us into this or has forced us into this military quagmire, right? It's ridiculous. Having said that, I guess it's a perfect opportunity for us to go to the Leisure Miller video that just came out.
Hi, it's Saturday.
America's Hassan Piker Problem by Leisure Miller.
April 11th, 2026. You're tuned into a special Saturday edition of Why America? I'm your lawyer friend, Leisha Miller. This week, Dr. Abdul El Sayed, a progressive candidate running to represent Michigan in the U.S. Senate, was joined by leftist Twitch streamer Hassan Piker at a campaign rally at Michigan State University. Despite the fact that Trump was literally threatening to genocide an entire country while stripping away crucial social safety nets to fund his pointless war of aggression in the Middle East, despite, you know, all the horrors, the Democratic establishment was more incensed and up in arms about
I've never tried this root beer
streamer's
before. I'm about to. A&W.
Stumping for a progressive candidate than they were about pretty much anything else this week. And hey, guess what? Prior to this week, I had never heard of Dr. Abdul El Sayed. Weird. It's almost like he's successfully campaigning for a seat in the Senate by aligning with people who will help publicize his race. Maybe instead of running around like their hair's on fire and twisting themselves up in knots trying to cancel Hassan Piker, the Democratic establishment could take some fucking notes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Today, we're breaking down what the fuck is going on with the Hassan Piker debate and who he is, if you're like, Leisha, I've never fucking heard of this guy, and why this discussion matters deeply for the future of this country. This headline from CNN helped inform my reporting on this issue, and believe me, we are going to break down this
I didn't like A&W
panel discussion because it's a doozy. Hassan Piker tests the limits of the Democratic Party's big tent. Using the Ground News browser extension, I can get helpful background information on this publication in one quick glance.
It's too
To get
spicy.
the big picture, I can click on full coverage, which will show me coverage of the same story from publications across the political spectrum. My partner on today's video, Ground News, is an app and website that offers tools to help you critically analyze the news you read.
It's not like spicy, but it's I don't know how to explain
you can follow
it. Like
along
the
at ground.news/Leisha. For every major news headline and
undertones
headlines you may
is,
have missed, Ground News provides you with information
got like
and
a heavy flavor.
like who owns the publication and how factual it is. To
You
help
just
determine for
shunted me into the far right. Please block me now, you chud.
yourself what is trustworthy and how to interpret the news. I feel empowered by Ground News by getting well-rounded insight into each headline instead of relying on a single outlet that might have underlying biases and motivations that I'm not aware of. Ground News also ensures that I never miss a headline because of my own information bubble with its blind spot feature by highlighting stories that are covered on one side of the political spectrum and not the other. Ground News is transparent about its methodology, how it assesses each story and publication, including how it uses 3 independent monitoring organizations to assess the bias rating for each publication. publication.
apologized? Yeah,
I
that's
genuinely think
expected.
the world would be a better place if everyone had this much context about the news they read. Because depending on where you or your family members get the news, you're going to get very different takes on the same story. And listen, I'm not the only one who loves ground news. The Nobel Peace Center even called it an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview.
Well, we know what their word is worth, right?
I'm always really impressed with ground news and genuinely think they're a great resource. If you want to stay informed on U.S. politics and more, subscribe through this QR code or my link below at ground.news/Legia for 40% off this.
The one institution that's maybe marginally better than the FIFA Peace Prize is the Nobel Peace Committee.
Unlimited Access Vantage Plan. It comes up to $5 a month for unlimited access to all the features I've mentioned. Thanks, Ground News. Hasan Piker is a 34-year-old leftist content creator who mainly is known for his live streams on a live streaming website called Twitch. He got his start in the media world through his uncle Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, a left-leaning news organization.
True.
He live streams every day for 8 hours a day from his home in Los Angeles, mostly watching and commenting on the news to his over 3 million followers.
Wait, what the fuck? That's from today. Wait, what the fuck? Wait, what? Bro, that's... What the fuck? Wait, this video came out an hour ago. What? That was me an hour and 25 minutes in to the broadcast. Oh my gosh, she cooked me. You know how I say Piker Broadcasting News for tomorrow's news today? She did that to me. What the hell? What the hell? Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow, that's crazy.
Followers on Twitch, and then reposting clips of the live streams across other social media platforms. His views have been described as far left, socialist, Marxist. He tends to espouse anti-imperialist, pro-worker, pro-Palestinian ideology. So of course he's been labeled a major threat by the Democratic establishment. As recently laid out in a great opinion piece in The Guardian by Bhaskar Sankara, quote, Representative Brad Schneider branded Piker an unapologetic anti-Semite. Michigan's own Senator Alyssa Slotkin, a former Pentagon official, weighed in with her condemnation, as did Representative Haley Stevens, one of El Sayed's primary rivals. Another opponent, Mallory McMorrow, went so far as to liken Piker to Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist who has enthusiastically praised Adolf Hitler on camera. When Politico came calling, both Cory Booker and Ruben Gallego rushed to declare they would refuse an invitation to appear on Piker's stream.
Not my go Rahm Emanuel, though. He said he'd be on.
Again, at a time when we're fucking begging anyone in the Democratic establishment to do anything to stop the onslaught of horrific fucking atrocities being committed by our government, they are instead like, hey, we need to cancel this progressive Twitch streamer. This speaks volumes to two things. One, the extent to which our entire political and media establishment is bought out by Israel and AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which I'll get into, and two, the power that modern political commentators on social media have in America today. Maybe I'm biased, but I think I'm right. First, the primary objections that people have to Hasan Piker seem to stem from some controversial things he has said at various points throughout his career. Here's Dana Bash on CNN talking about it as though someone from AIPAC is holding a gun to her head just off screen.
Here's some of what he actually has said about the depravity of the October 7th terror attack, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Quote, it doesn't matter if effing rapes happened on October 7th. Like,
handsome photo alert.
The dynamic for me. The Palestinian resistance is not perfect. Now, let that sink in. Hasan Piker is excusing sexual violence by Hamas terrorists. He also claims Hamas is, quote, 1,000 times better than Israel. Hamas is a designated terror organization.
Notice how there's no retaliation to that statement other than just going, well, it's a terrorist organization. It's a terrorist organization. It's a terrorist organization. Okay, what does that say about Israel then? What does that say about Israel? That you can't even defend the most moral nation on the planet Earth, Israel, against such a silly accusation without just going, oh, it's a terrorist organization. What does that say about Israel? Okay, that I made a statement that a state-sponsored or a state-designated terrorist organization is 1,000 times better than Israel, and you couldn't retort. you could not explain that Israel is not 1,000 times worse than a state-designated terrorist organization. Because it's true, Israel is worse. The only fault at this point is that it's not 1,000 times worse. It's probably more than 1,000 times worse. But, you know.
Not just by the U.S., but by the EU, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, just to name a few. And here's what Piker said about the horrors of September 11th, 2001.
America deserved 9/11, dude. F it. I'm saying.
Winning the shower argument right now, me? Shower argument? Buddy, I won the argument without even being a part of the argument. The moment that you don't have a retort to that statement, when you control the conversation, because she could just as easily have me on a panel. You know, I'm an accessible guy, right? I'm live all day, every day.
Like, we fucking totally brought it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit. We did. We fucking did.
Now, Piker did later call that comment inappropriate and said he didn't mean Americans deserved to die.
Let that sink in. Dana Bash is comfortable with Israel genociding the entirety of Gaza.
They say walked it back, and you literally say we brought it upon ourselves in the same clip. I know. No one ever, they hear the 9/11 part, and then they just like laser in on it.
As retribution for the crimes of a few Hamas terrorists, crimes that Israelis also commit against Palestinians at staggering numbers. There is no question that Hamas engages in terrorist activities, and Hassan's flippant language around sexual violence is absolutely condemnable. But the global hypocrisy is also staggering, and something so much bigger than one person live streaming from his bedroom in Los Angeles. Hamas is condemned globally as a terrorist organization, and the atrocities its militants carried out on October 7th, including alleged rapes, some of which have been debunked as untrue, I'll note, have been pointed to as key evidence justifying this terrorist designation. Yet, at the same time, Israel is a legitimate state that deserves to exist and be protected. This despite a UN report from last year that found, quote, Israel has increasingly employed sexual, reproductive, and other forms of gender-based violence against Palestinians as part of a broader effort to undermine their right to self-determination, and carried out genocidal acts through the systematic destruction of sexual and reproductive healthcare facilities. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is very important to pay attention to who is being called a terrorist and who isn't, and by whomst. Israel violently colonizes land that is already occupied, creates a genocidal apartheid state. Both sides commit atrocities and violence against each other. One is a designated terrorist organization, and the other is a state that has the right to self-determination. But you are not allowed to point that out in this country because every single politician and mainstream news organization is bought and sold by Israel and AIPAC. And so they lob the anti-Semitic accusation around and fearmonger anyone who might step out of line and speak out against the well-documented atrocities committed by Israel. The Hassan Piker problem is that he's outside this web of control, and yet has amassed a lot of political power in this country because no one watches or trusts mainstream media anymore. Case in point, that CNN panel. I think it's also a testament to Hassan Piker's influence, the fact that he forced Dana Bash to contend with, on this CNN panel, the idea of Hamas as a terrorist org to begin with. For the longest time, we weren't even debating that. We weren't even debating Israel's legitimacy, at least not on the scale that we are now. And that has put a target on Hassan Piker's back, which I think is the age-old problem for famous leftist activists in this country. Actual avowed anti-Semites, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, skinheads, the KKK, far-right conspiracy theorists, they're running around successfully advocating for actual violence, and the people in the highest rungs of power are worried about a guy who's pro-worker.
I think it says a lot about the state of affairs and where the majority is at this point that Leisha Miller is speaking convincingly on an issue that pertains to American foreign policy. Like look, Leisha Miller is great. Big fan of her, right? But in most circumstances, I think a lot of Americans, no matter how progressive they are, when it comes to anti-imperialist sentiment, or when it comes to like identifying why resistance groups form, why they fight, or sometimes like the actions that they engage in that are obviously outside of the confines of international humanitarian law, most liberals and most Americans in general will turn around and say, nope, these guys are irredeemable, they're monsters, without factoring in how they got to that point, without factoring in why these acts of desperation are taking place. Okay? You have to remember that. Like, I've had these sorts of conversations for years. As a matter of fact, a big part of why so many people are frustrated and so many people have become like lifelong haters of mine is because they come into this community, they see me advocate for, workers' rights, advocate for like domestic issues that they completely agree with, and then they hear my perspective on foreign policy, on American foreign policy being objectively evil, and they lose their minds because that has, in my experience, been the most solid social conditioning for every single American, regardless of how progressive they perceive themselves to be. On the domestic front, you can hear Americans say that they're even socialists, right? But when it comes to American foreign policy, when push comes to shove, a lot of Americans have this assessment that it's far better that America, at the end of the day, is in some way, shape, or form, the de facto world police, because God forbid someone else takes that position, it'll be far more violent, right? Like, that's an attitude. That is usually a very sincere attitude demonstrated by a lot of Americans, okay? Now, that's changing. That is truly changing. Part of that is because of Israel and our seeming, our overt bipartisan support for Israel. Post-October 7, the genocide was conducted and defended by the Democratic Party and then continued by the Republican Party. People saw the horrifying things that Israel was doing to the Palestinian civilian population, and they were shocked, right? They could not comprehend that, like, this good force, this force for good. America does evil things every now and then, but they're doing it for some overall good purpose. That went away. That went away. People started to contend with the reality that maybe America, especially as long as they maintain this allegiance with Israel, is maybe not a force for good, right? That, in my experience, has always been the hardest bridge to cross with many like-minded individuals, okay? That's part of the reason why it's one of the most like resilient counters against me from not only the likes of Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro and numerous other right-wing, far-right figureheads. They say Hassan says America bad. Why don't you fucking leave this country if you hate it so much? This thought-terminating retort. But it's also been one of the most resilient counters from even liberals, NATO Atlanticists, NatSec liberals, people who call themselves like Lockheed liberals, people like that. Those people see my commentary on American violence, and they also engage in this thought-terminating cliche that, oh, you're just saying that because you hate America. You just hate America. You say America bad, you don't ever explain why, even though I do, right? And they never factor in or consider that I want America to be good. That's my advocacy. I want America to be good to its own people, and I want America to be good to other countries, right? But they don't want to contend with that. They don't want to comprehend that. They have no intellectual curiosity until now. Things have changed, right? Things have changed. People are far more open-minded to the notion that maybe we are a malignant force. Maybe we are not the force for good, the world police that most people learned, most people are socially conditioned into believing. Trump has also played a big role in this as well. He's a repulsive, monstrous, rapist figure, and he talks like a rapist in many respects when he's talking about what he's going to do to other countries. That is perhaps the most honest expression of American imperialism, though. He says the quiet part out loud. And I think because there is no intellectualized liberal patina associated with the American foreign policy decision-making process now, all of a sudden Americans are forced to contend with that reality. They hear what Trump is saying, and either they say, well, sucks to suck, fuck all those other countries, let's get that oil. Or they're forced to think, wait a minute, I did think America was the world police, and it was good that we were engaging in all these interventions overseas. But it turns out maybe it wasn't for good at all. Maybe I was lied to. And more Americans are coming to terms with that reality. Okay?
An anti-imperialist who said a few problematic things about Israel and 9/11. They compare him to Nick Fuentes as though that's a fair comparison. One man is advocating for socialism and workers' rights and in favor of the marginalized and against billionaires. The other one openly denies that the Holocaust ever happened.
Yeah.
Because the terrorists on the far right, the ones who actually carry out far more extremist violence than the left ever does, their terrorism is directed towards minorities. A person like Hassan Piker, someone who advocates for working people, for minorities, against the American imperialist experiment, he is genuinely a terrorist in the eyes of the 1%. To them, his ideas bring them terror. And that's the only kind of terror our establishment cares about, the terror of the 1%, because people like Hassan are advocating for them to be wiped off the face of the earth. To the 1%, taxes and regulations are their own personal genocide. Their existence as billionaires can't withstand the types of ideas that a person like Hassan Piker advocates for. So that is what those in power are going to find most threatening and attempt to shut down, and they always have. And I think Hassan Piker and the debate we're having over him, as fucking annoying as all of this is, I think it's good for America. Now, let me be clear about my own stance on Hassan. Does Hassan Piker present his ideas in a tactful, palatable way? Absolutely not. I find Hassan Piker to be incredibly off-putting most of the time. He reminds me of the guys I majored in poli-sci with in college who would talk over me at parties. I don't like the way he speaks to his audience. I don't agree with the brazen, insensitive way he talks about these issues. And I think live streaming lends itself really well to running your mouth and saying shit you later regret. That being said, Hassan has watched numerous of my videos on his live stream and only had nice things to say, and I appreciate that. And I think, for better or for worse, whether you like his content or not, Hassan Piker is meeting the people of America.
I think this does genuinely stem from, I mean, she's not wrong, right? Like, if you have seen an assortment of like all of my most angry moments, right? Like all my angriest moments, you're going to come to that conclusion. There's two problems, of course. She's not wrong if you see those compilations, and those compilations exist, and perhaps those compilations are what most people see because no one's going to sit through a whole ass live stream, right? So that's the correct part of this, right? So I don't get mad at people for having that assessment. Okay? The other thing I will say is that the media medium that I operate in makes it virtually impossible to conduct yourself in any other way, shape, or form. Because remember, we talked about this yesterday as well. I have spoken about politics for more than 21,000 hours. More than 21,000 hours of wall-to-wall political commentary, and not just political commentary, but political commentary in an interactive medium. A political commentary on issues that are very sensitive, political commentary on issues that are sensitive with an interactive audience from a perspective that most Americans have either never encountered, okay, especially when I first started, this wasn't, there was no popular, robust socialist movement in this country, right? Let alone anti-imperialism. But also a position that carries a lot of baggage, right? Carries a lot of baggage because people have been primed into hating. People have been primed into hating this idea. They've been taught that like socialism, anti-imperialism, this is anti-America behavior, anti-America activity. This is a devastating wrong. It's perhaps even scarier than Nazism. That's a thing that a lot of liberals will say too, right? Add to that the Nazification of Twitter in the exchange of ownership in the hands of Elon Musk and clip culture acceleration. And it's, it's a given that there will be this level of resentment and this many people who spend a good deal of time and a good deal of effort for free in tarnishing what I'm trying to do and consistently attacking me to great success, right? Just admit that you have a short fuse. Stop excusing yourself. It's okay. No, I already have admitted that I have a short fuse, but see, you're doing it right now. Of course, I have a short fuse as well. What I'm simply saying is it is virtually impossible. If you've spent a long enough time in this chat, you've already understood that, right? It's virtually impossible for any human being not to have angry moments in an interactive medium where I'm talking about politics, highly sensitive subjects that are very deep and personal for a lot of people, from a perspective and a framework that most Americans are either oblivious to or antagonistic to. That's part of the reason why a lot of people that are in the media space will look to what I'm doing and go, how the fuck have you not been killed already? How have you not killed yourself already? It's unbelievable.
Where they're at in a way nothing else on the left has managed to do. And of course, I don't mean all the people in America. I mean young men in America. The demographic everyone was most wringing their hands over during the
Gaming gang stuff for life. I subscribe to just say you're full of shit, you're an asshole. Just say some accountability, dude. See, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Two questions come to mind for, every single person in here, right? And I'm going to stop responding to people who are obviously trying to piss me off right now after this. Two questions come to mind. Think about every moment that you have spent on God's green earth, the last 21,000 hours that you've been alive. Now imagine if there was a camera on it at every point, and a lot of people that were watching that feed specifically to see something that you said and professionally misunderstand it, right? How many awful moments would you have in that situation? It's normal. We're all human beings. We have weak moments sometimes. We have angry moments sometimes, right? Of course, there would be hundreds of instances, right? Think about disagreements that you've had with loved ones or disagreements that you've had with people you hate. Think about the shit that you've talked about people that you hate in the 21,000 hours, in the last 21,000 hours. Now imagine if the rest of the world saw that, right? It's impossible. This person is currently demonstrating how easily this stuff works. If you had to deal with a guy like this, add to that the interactive component, right? People coming in here, spending money, hard-earned cash to be like, you're a fucking piece of shit. You're condescending. I don't like your style. I don't like your optics. And you're rude. And you're an asshole. Just take some accountability, dude. Times that by 1,000, you probably fucking lose your mind. Right? I'm a 38-year-old engineer. I've streamed. I'm not a little kid, bro. You're an asshole with an ego. I still fuck with you. Bro, I watch you every day. There's no excuses for being rude just because you're stressed out. Stop with the cope. Please just drop this and accept the critique. This is why I said I'm done with this after. Because many of you have been in here for a long enough time. You've seen this happen already. Someone could have the absolute worst fucking position of all time that anyone has ever come up with. And there will be at least like 50 other chatters that go, actually, this person is delivering scathing critique that is constructive that you should abide by. That person called me a fucking asshole, rude, condescending. How is that? How is that constructive critique, chatter? I don't understand. Anyway, let's continue.
2024 election. The demographic we're all still wringing our hands over. I, like many people, recently watched Louis Theroux's new documentary, Inside the Manosphere. If you haven't seen it, journalist and documentarian Louis Theroux interviews various men who create content and who are part of the Manosphere, a loosely connected cohort of content creators who talk about being red-pilled in the Matrix, how to be real men, and how to be an alpha male, how to get women, how to look max, how to look as hot as possible. And I learned in the documentary also
They also fail at that, let's be real.
So, how to make money while you sleep by joining their Signal chat and downloading the stock trading apps they get commissions from by convincing their followers to join. The promise is that if you follow these men, they'll teach you how to be rich and handsome and get women. It speaks to this moment where the American dream is dead. It's harder than ever to provide for yourself, let alone a whole family. Men are isolated and lonely. Women no longer need them. And so they're turning to someone for guidance, for inspiration, to tell them how to get what they want, to explain to them why they feel so shitty. And the manosphere offers them the antidote. Many of these content creators live stream from their mansions in Ibiza or Miami, and a common form of content is them walking down the streets hitting on women or pulling off more and more shocking stunts to get views and likes and virality. And if you watch Hasan Piker's content and then you watch this Inside the Manosphere documentary, there are shades of the manosphere in Hasan Piker's content. And before you think that I'm trying to cancel Hasan Piker, let me explain myself. Hasan Piker is brazen and often says things that have really high shock value, much like men of the manosphere content creation universe who rely on doing drastic or shocking shit to get views and clicks. Both attract attention. One is harassing women on the street or getting into physical altercations, while the other is calling into question America's imperialist warmongering by saying we deserved 9/11. Hasan Piker often takes his live streams on the road, followed by a cameraman and accompanied by his entourage. He's usually wearing a lot of jewelry and expensive-looking clothes. The same happens in the manosphere. One group is wandering around the streets of Miami hitting on women. The other is exploring communist China or the blockade on Cuba. Both are creating content for the same generation of men. One is perpetuating toxic tropes of masculinity and the patriarchy and reinforcing the glorification of the military-industrial complex and sending more and more men down the capitalist pipeline. If you just work hard enough, you can be like me, and you should value money and power above everything.
Optics lip shit? No, you're missing the point. She's literally saying she's saying that even from an optical standpoint, the style and the aesthetics are obviously successful in reaching a lot of young men, except one, like, she's not criticizing the style and aesthetics. She's saying that I have a similar style and similar aesthetics, using it as a force for good, versus those guys do all that shit and a lot more, really. And they do that to predate on young men in this gross way where they shove them down the right-wing pipeline.
Else. The other Hasan Piker is uplifting marginalized voices, breaking down ethno-religious supremacist ideologies, speaking out forcefully against the billionaire class, and questioning the imperialist nature of the United States as a whole in a way that speaks to young men and meets them where they're at. You might not be comfortable with the way in which men under 40 consume content, the content that they like, the tactics used to communicate with them, with the world as it is right now. That's okay. This content isn't for you. But the reality is that this is the world. This is the world the internet has created, for better or for worse. And I would sure as shit prefer young men to be questioning the geopolitical world order with Hasan Piker than learning how to hit on women on the Miami waterfront. You know what I mean? And this speaks to a larger issue with the Democratic Party, one that Naomi Klein lays out really well in her book Doppelganger, and that is that Democrats have a tendency to bury their heads in the sand and ignore the way things are, the real genuine issues people have with the system, instead of figuring out how to fit them within their larger tent. And Republicans and far-right conspiracy theorists are able to step in and fill that void. For example, anti-vaxxing and objections to COVID-era mandates, at least in part, come from a place of truth. It is not irrational or unfounded to question the pharmaceutical industry in this country, an industry that has profited off our death and off keeping us sick. Instead of acknowledging that, and that there are regulatory issues, and that there's good reasons why.
I think it's also good to hear from this perspective as well, because this is one that I'm also very aware of, right? Like, the way I look, the way I carry myself, the way I talk can be can be off-putting for a lot of people. Like what she said about how I carry myself reminds her of all like the annoying men in her life that she has had to experience, is absolutely something that I've heard from even many of you, right? Like it took a lot. Like I've heard this is one of the most common critiques I hear from, especially a lot of leftists, right? Leftists, they're empathetic. They're very sensitive in many instances, right? And they've had a lot of lived experience with and negative experiences with people who look like me, who sound like me. Okay. So there is this automatic, like what is seen for many as this interesting juxtaposition for a lot of young men specifically. It is seen as an interesting juxtaposition, a guy who works out, a guy who, wears nice clothes, but isn't a fucking right-wing reactionary shithead. That brashness, vulgarity, the way I look, that can be a major setback for a lot of people. And a lot of people openly and readily admit that, where they'll be like, I didn't watch you for the longest time because from afar, I thought you were just like a condescending douchebag frat bro. Right? It's true. You're giving yourself too much credit, bro. What do you mean? Sanderson in her comments are seething about her defending you, Lamau. Yeah.
People might distrust big pharma.
Yeah, I'm the king of walk like a chug, think like a woke.
The establishment left wrote anti-vaxxers off as nut jobs and continued to cozy up to pharmaceutical lobbyists, giving the far right an opportunity to swoop in and win over anti-vaxxers by acknowledging the truth that sent them down that pipeline to begin with. You're right. There is something fishy about how pharmaceutical companies operate in this country. That wins over trust that then becomes easy to exploit with lies and conspiracies. The same is true of young men and the manosphere. The manosphere is capitalizing on something that is true. Young men in this country are not okay. The economy is rigged against all of us. The patriarchy hurts everyone and makes them feel horrible about themselves because they can't be providers anymore. And the manosphere acknowledges that truth and then sends them down the toxic pipeline. You're right. Life is really hard. You are being exploited. That wins over trust that then becomes easy to exploit with lies and conspiracies. The manosphere tells them the way to win back your agency is through stocks and emotionally abusing women. Hassan Piker tells them that actually the billionaire class is the reason why your life sucks. Young men are seeking this shit out online, whether we like it or not. And they're not seeking it out from mainstream media. They're not seeking it out from even someone like me, a leftist, yes, but someone who's a lot more measured and doesn't do or say things that go particularly viral and is also a woman in her 30s. So sorry, but
I got bullied a lot of my school career from the bro types I've been watching for years now. My hackles still flare up when you go bro mode, but that's the only real issue I have with you, and that's not your problem. Yeah. Well, thank you for being able to, overlook that. I mean, that's just who I am too. That's just the other side of the story, right? Like I'm always going to be honest and authentic with who I am. It's also impossible for me not to be, because I'm live every day for 8 hours a day. I can't put on a fucking front. Okay? I can't put on a front and I can't fake it. This is just who I am. I would have to dramatically alter my character, my personality, things I believe in even, to be able to do that.
not particularly intriguing to 20-year-old men, and I'm really okay with that. That's just the reality of the situation. And I don't know about you, but I'd far prefer a world where they jump onto the leftist Hassan Piker train than the manosphere death spiral. I think that's a net positive for America. And yet, the establishment Democrats, the legacy media, would rather shoot themselves in the foot than acknowledge that they need Hassan Piker in their tent. They would rather throw their weight behind attempting to cancel him than attempting to understand what it is about him that speaks to a base of people that they have been clamoring to win over.
These content creators do not understand your audience isn't watching their content because 75% of their content is critiquing the left or punching left. Why would we watch condescending liberals? What do you mean? Are you talking about all the hater content out there? I mean, I think there's a lot of people who do actually love that drama shit.
Young men. They all of a sudden demand purity, to never associate with anyone who's ever said anything objectionable, while openly and vociferously supporting Israel, an apartheid state actively committing genocide while the world watches. Instead of attempting to figure out how to actually fit the entire left wing of this country in their tent, which is their burden in our fucked up two-party system, which would require acknowledging differences, having hard conversations.
What? People are asking you to be humble, not cure cancer and create world peace. It is just asking you to do that weird breathing thing Trump did in the 2020 election. Thank you so much for being open to the other side of this perspective. This is far more humble than most are. I think people expect you to not vice signal and be unapologetic. What? I'm confused.
Strategizing, open-mindedness, coalition building. They are once again alienating the entire left of their base, because this isn't just off-putting to Hassan Piker fans. It's off-putting to anyone outside left of center who wants to see the Democrats attempt to mend this party, take back power, and make the types of progressive changes that need to happen to ensure a Donald Trump figure never happens again in this country. And that requires addressing the truths that Donald Trump and the right have been willing to exploit. That billionaires are amassing wealth and leaving us to fight over the scraps. That life in America is about surviving and not thriving for the vast majority of Americans. Trump promised solutions to that and, of course, delivered nothing. But Democrats could actually step in and increase taxes on the wealthy, provide affordable health care and childcare if they were willing to embrace progressive ideals and the people that come along with it. But they're not. Just like in Germany in the lead up to World War II, in America, we are seeing the quote-unquote opposition party choose money over morals, cling to their elite friends, align themselves closer with the fascists than with the people, while just playing lip service to the concerns of the masses and doing nothing about anything, and then throwing us all under the bus in order to keep their power. So the discussion over Hassan Piker is about so much more than what we do with this leftist guy who live streams all day. It is a microcosm of how fucking broken this country is.
This is what, I mean, this is absolutely correct. This is exactly what I've been trying to get across as well for these past like 2 weeks, where the smear campaign and the manufactured outrage has like exploded. It's the very fact that so many mainstream outlets from CNN to Fox News are predisposed with this silly shit is already an indication that something is busted. Okay, something is completely broken in our media ecosystem. But then on top of that, I think the real reason why it's happening is because these guys can no longer control. They don't have the same like stranglehold that they had on the dissemination of all information. And they've lost the narrative battle on Israel and on even maybe American imperialism. There's deep skepticism against mainstream outlets. So instead of constantly yelling and shitting on the public and coming across as even more annoying and even losing the remainder of the people that tune in, they are trying to identify a vulgar representation of that broad base and try to humiliate me and bully me into submission. But the reason why they're doing that, the reason why they're trying to aggressively attack me is because they can't really attack everyone else. Another thing is communicating the way you do makes the learning process far more entertaining. Watch politics for 8 hours for not for everyone. You make it funny and interesting and educational. Yeah, that too. What is this? Tweet deleted. These guys actually do have the correct amount of paranoia. Becoming a political pariah is a slippery slope that ends in a pit of bad consequences. They just can't wrap their heads around these consequences coming from Israel's own choices. Some people do understand that, by the way, because this is not, I mean, it kind of sounds silly to say this because I keep repeating that I'm a fucking Twitch streamer. It's ridiculous, but they are choosing to make me into this like representative figure of all of the left demands and left forces of politics in this country. That's part of the reason why I said you also have to fucking sometimes do something that I've never asked you to do, which is to, defend what people are saying. As a matter of fact, for the longest time, I've always said, I'm just a Twitch streamer. Just argue on the issues, right? If you want to convince people to argue on the issues, you don't have to fucking defend me. But now, mainstream sources are turning me into the expression, the purest expression and the manifestation of like left-wing politics. Now, obviously, for a lot of liberals, like that's fantastic because then they can just consistently demand to cut me out of the equation. And there are plenty of people who are doing that right now. There's a lot of liberals who are anti-communist, anti-socialist, a lot of reactionaries, a lot of people who are pro-Israel, pro-genocide that are actively trying to go, see, this guy's a real threat. You should just not talk to him. You should listen to me instead. There's like people who are self-interested. It's not going to work, right? Most people understand that if it wasn't me, it'd be whoever else is in my place. But it's not just about me. It's about people like Zoran. It's about people like AOC. It's about Bernie Sanders. It's about Abdul El-Sayed, right? Your irrelevance as a Twitch streamer also removes a lot of the downside of going at you so hard. If they lobbed a lot of the criticism they say about you directly at people like Abdul El-Sayed, normies would see it as distasteful, but because they don't really know you, normies are less repulsed by criticism of you. Yeah, I'm just a stand-in. It's not about you. You're just a caricature stand-in for progressives and leftists in the USA. This mirror against you isn't meant for you. It's meant for normal people who are sick of the duopoly in the system that both Dems and Republicans protect. They think gutting and blocking you out will shut critics of them up. Yeah, and it won't work.
Damn, this guy's good.